From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. President Biden says he's asked the Pentagon and the State Department to draw up contingency plans in case the timetable for America's military withdrawal from Kabul airport needs to change. He rebuffed demands today by G7 leaders for the U.S. military to remain in the Afghan capital for as long as necessary. And in a much-delayed appearance at the White House, he said he still hopes the mission can be completed by the end of the month.
We are currently on a pace to finish by August the 31st. The sooner we can finish, the better. Each day of operations brings added risk to our troops. But the completion by August 31st depends upon the Taliban continuing to cooperate and allow access to the airport for those who we're transporting out, and no disruptions to our operations.
But reports on the ground in Afghanistan indicate there are fresh disruptions by the Taliban to the evacuation effort, with Americans and Afghans alike claiming they cannot now get to the airport. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki today bristled when a reporter tried to raise a specific case with her.
If we are not in touch with this individual, give me their contact information and we will get in touch with them. If any of you are hearing from American citizens who can't reach us, give me their contact information and we will get in contact with them.
The president also said the threat of a terror strike on U.S. forces in Kabul is real. He said the longer they remain, the more they're at risk. Earlier today, the Taliban said it will no longer allow international forces to take Afghans out of the country. Spokesman Zahibullah Mujahid speaking through an interpreter.
We ask Americans to change their policies and don't encourage Afghans to leave. Please don't encourage our engineers, doctors and military personnel because we need them and their talent. Don't take them to foreign countries.
One other headline today, Charlie Watts of the Rolling Stones, one of the greatest drummers of all time, has died at the age of 80. News was announced in London. His publicist said he died in hospital surrounded by his family. Earlier this month, he said ill health would prevent him from touring with the Stones again later this year. In a recent interview, he reflected on one impact of the band's success.
It's very difficult to play in clubs with the Rolling Stones because there's so many people in them. So you can't really relax in clubs like we used to be able to.
Among those paying tribute today, Paul McCartney of the Beatles.
So sad to hear about Charlie Watts, the Stones drummer. Charlie was a rock and a fantastic drummer. Love you, Charlie, and great condolences and sympathies to his family.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, an eyewitness account from Poland's border with Belarus, scene of reportedly forced migrations of Belarusians into European Union territory. The authorities in Warsaw say they're going to build a security fence along the border now and double the number of troops posted there after the EU accused Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko of deliberately trying to flood Poland and other EU member states with refugees. Brussels believes it's a retaliation for European sanctions imposed on Belarus following President Lukashenko's crackdown there. Claudia Ciobanu is a Polish journalist just back to Warsaw from the border.
We were simply walking in one of the villages nearby the border, and we heard on the Belarusian side a truck driving in. And minutes later, we did see migrants emerging on the Polish side. The villagers in the houses nearby the border, they said, here it is. It's the time of day when they are bringing in migrants. And there's more and more testimonies to this extent. It does seem to be the case that the Belarusian authorities are indeed driving migrants to the border.
The Polish government says the bewildered arrivals are not refugees, but economic migrants forced to make the journey by the government in Minsk. Some human rights groups are urging the Polish government to be more humane in its approach to the situation. The main news again. President Biden says he's asked the Pentagon and the State Department to draw up contingency plans in case the timetable for America's military withdrawal from Kabul airport needs to change. He says the longer U.S. forces remain on the ground in the Afghan capital, the greater the risk of a terror attack against them. And fulsome tributes are being paid to Charlie Watts, the Rolling Stones drummer, who has died at the age of 80. And that is the latest feature story news. Simon Marks reporting.
This is the Onion Week in Review. Sources are confirming your dog died earlier today, and we're all really sorry you had to find out about it like this, buddy. Though it's a lousy thing to have to learn from an online web video, and even shittier to hear from a cold, hardened newsman's voice that you can't put a face to, your pet passed away in his sleep while you went out today, and we understand how shocked you must be right now. Sources added that there are many local shelters with animals in need of a good home, though we understand that no dog can ever truly replace the one you just lost. I lost a dog once, but my mom was the one who told me about it, and she was quite the comfort. In this week's op-ed pages, Pantene CEO Marcus Russo laments feeling like the only one who gives a shit about rich, lustrous hair. In other news, a study finds that newborn infants can tell if their parents are losers. A man who just assembled a desk is unsure how he has every screw left over. And Jeff Beck is lured into a dark alley with the old guitar pick on a string trick. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. You're welcome to join us. That's 603-283-6160. That's the call-in line if you want to do that. 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Ian.
And Conan.
And man, I love hypocrisy. I've got a story from someone at MSNBC who is just extremely upset about third world countries not getting COVID-19 vaccines because Western countries, like the United States, are instead providing people with booster shots. And I'm not going to give away the spoiler now, but that article is definitely worth getting into. But I don't want to start out with it. I want to start out with how many freaking pop-ups there are anywhere you go on the internet. It's absolutely ridiculous.
What browser are you using?
This is Chrome. I want to start with Coinbase.
Well, you know what? I've been using Dissenter, which is based on the Brave browser. Been using it for at least 3 or 4 years now.
Isn't that the Gab thing?
It's the one that you can report on all our every. You
can comment on any
website. I think
Gab's behind that.
I've never done any of that, but as far as pop-ups are concerned, I mean, I think I have an ad blocker.
The first thing I got when I clicked on one of these news sites was a pop-up saying, "Hey, you have an ad blocker. You should turn that off so that we can monetize you."
I get those occasionally, but as far as like ads, just in general, especially on videos, any video software out there, any video website,
ad blockers knock those out pretty effectively.
It's amazing that they're able to do that as well.
Yeah.
I love that about.
In fact, when people mention to me, like my dad or others who can't reset the clock on the stove,
right?
They're talking about ads they saw on YouTube. I'm like, dude,
got no idea.
I don't. I didn't even realize YouTube had ads. It's been so long since I've seen one.
I can relate. For about 2 years, I was just so used to using ad block on my PC to watch YouTube that when I watched a video on my phone, there was an ad, and I was like, "What is this?"
Brave browser. There you go again.
Well, Conan, you're presuming I have the right to go online and download a web browser.
You can't go to the store. You can't.
She is highly restricted for some
Holy
reason.
crap! All right, sorry.
So you can do drugs.
You gotta have to. You gotta stick with Chrome.
Coinbase has been slammed for what users say is terrible customer service.
Shocking! I'm shocked. Let me tell you.
After hackers drained their accounts. Now these.
Whoa! When did this happen?
Right, that's what I thought. I thought this was breaking, right? Because I haven't heard of any Coinbase hack.
I have a couple of monies on Coinbase.
Get it out of there, dude. What are you doing?
A couple. It's just a couple little trinkles.
But it's a good warning. But this happened, apparently, it happens regularly. Coinbase itself has not been hacked, but users of Coinbase, it turns out, have
social
been.
engineering, most likely.
Sort of. I mean, their computers get affected with malware, that sort of thing. Or the SIM swap is very popular. That's where this hacker just calls up your mobile phone provider and says, "Hey, I lost my SIM card. Yeah. Can you send me a new one? Oh, and I also moved, so can you send it to the other side of the country?" And the carrier just goes, "Sure." And just like that, they receive all of your text messages.
Or they might say, "What's your birthday?" Or, ask some basic question that anybody who can socially engineer the victim would be able to get.
Yeah, they're very common. CNBC interviewed Coinbase users across the country and found thousands of customer complaints against the company. You know, we talked about this a few nights ago. Coinbase is an okay way of acquiring cryptocurrency.
For the brand new user, it's easy.
But you gotta get it off of there as soon as you have it.
Yeah.
For Tanya Vidovich, it was a moment of panic. She had received a series of alerts about someone changing access to her cryptocurrency account. And she realized as she stared at her computer screen that nearly all of her $168,000 in holdings was gone. God. Vanished before her eyes. Yeah. She was stunned. She left $168,000 of cryptocurrency sitting in her Coinbase account instead of cold storage or even a mobile phone wallet. Any of those would have been better. Nearly 4 months have passed and it has yet to sink in, she said. Tanya and Jared jumped into cryptocurrency investing in 2017 and watched their funds nearly quadruple over 4 years. They used Coinbase, the country's largest cryptocurrency exchange, for their plunge into virtual currency. On exchanges such as Coinbase, users can deposit dollars and trade them for cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and Ethereum, which the couple purchased.
As long as your bank will let you send the money to the exchange in the first place.
Yes, sometimes going through those hoops is a real pain in the butt, sending them ID, and sometimes they don't even like that because it's too blurry, and they want to see the back of your ID. And
well, that's once you get the account open and authenticated with your ID and all of that, sure. I mean, that's its own separate issue, but Ian, you have a story about HSBC, which is a British bank, not allowing users to send money to Binance.
Yeah, and they're the latest bank. So it's actually been a series of banks over in the UK that have just said no to their customers. Oh, you want to wire money to a Bitcoin exchange, the world's largest Bitcoin exchange, Binance? No, we're not going to let you do that. They tell their customers, quote, "We've made this decision due to concerns about the possible risks to you. So we're doing it to help you."
They're not doing it to help you. Sadly.
Yeah.
But we're going to get into that story later. So Tanya says she looked into Coinbase and it seemed like it was the one that everybody used and trusted. Well, everyone may use it, but I sure hope no one trusts Coinbase. She is not a knowledgeable user, and you learn that immediately when she says, "I signed onto the crypto and I said it's gone."
Oh God.
I signed
onto the
crypto.
Yeah. Oh man. And of course, Coinbase isn't going to tell you to not use them as their custody, or as your custodian. They're not going to give you the basics of cryptocurrency and explain to you the benefits of cryptocurrency and how it can be, basically you can be your own bank, that you don't need Coinbase if you have the wherewithal to remember a username and a password. That's all you need for instance, Edge Wallet.
Yeah, and once you have that, unless it requires you to check for your password, which it does every so often, it doesn't require it, but it advises you to. Other than that, you just need a PIN.
Edge, by the way, Edge Wallet, you need to get on the desktop.
They really do need a desktop version.
Because that's the only reason I'm not using you.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. That's their one weakness. But here's the thing: Edge Wallet is open source, so if you knew how to do it, you could do it.
Let's not go there. I'm doing so many things right now.
I don't think the Edge Wallet being open source would be very helpful given the different platforms, would it?
Well, you can still take the source and convert it to whatever C++ or whatever it is you need to put it on computers.
So after Tanya signed on to the crypto, she tried to contact Coinbase, but they couldn't get anyone on the phone.
Oh, God. You can't call these people, by the way. That's another way you're going to get
scammed. That's like trying to call Facebook.
Yeah, but if you call Facebook, you're probably not going to get scammed out of your money. I remember when Will Coley, who was a co-host here on Free Talk Live for a little while, he had his own show, great guy, but he was getting into cryptocurrency, and Will's not a stupid man, but he had an issue on Kraken, which is another major exchange here in the United States, and he was wanting to contact their customer service, so he goes on to Google and searches Kraken customer service, found a phone number, calls it up, and some guy on the other end, "Hello, this is Kraken. How can we help you?" And he gave him keys or whatever, and before he knew it, he'd lost hundreds. Luckily, it was only hundreds of dollars worth, I think, of cryptocurrency in that.
Oh, he called a
scammer. Artist. Yeah, because a lot of these,
that's unfortunate.
A lot of these crypto exchanges will tell you, "Hey, if somebody gives you a phone number, it ain't us."
Yeah, they don't want you to contact them.
Yeah, we don't have phone numbers, basically. So if you're on the phone with somebody claiming to be from Coinbase or Kraken, it's not them.
Yeah, they use email almost exclusively, from what I can tell. So making this issue worse, cryptocurrency transactions cannot be reversed. What seems to be happening here is that users are getting their devices hacked through one mechanism or another, and the hackers are discovering, oh, there's a Coinbase account here, logging into the Coinbase account and draining the cryptocurrency. And of course, that is irreversible.
Now, go back to the SIM card replacement. How does that work? You just call up your phone company? Is this?
Yeah, pretty much.
You have to know the person's phone number and who they are. So if I have your phone number and your name.
And you're saying if I have all of my apps and stuff stored in the cloud, they can send all of that information to me?
If I know your number, your name, and I know what company your phone is, I can call up and say, I'm Conan so-and-so, and I want to I want to update my SIM card or whatever, or send me a new SIM card. And then...
And apparently, I mean, there's been some crackdown on them recently, but they would do it. But in general, keep your crypto off of Coinbase. There's more coming up. 603-283-6160.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Excuse me, is this where I get a license to start a new business?
I wouldn't be hasty. You have to get a license to go out of business, too, you know.
Oh, well, look, I've invented this little anti-gravity machine, see?
Oh, is that why you're walking 2 inches above the floor?
Oh, yes, it's very comfortable. It saves on shoe leather.
Yeah, well, you have to fill out these forms and report to the Human Services Department of Manpower Orientation and register with the Fair Employment Practice Commission, the Wage and Hour Division of the Employment Standards Administration, the State Sales and Income Tax Division, the Internal Revenue Service, and the Social Security Administration of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, and, of course, OSHA.
OSHA? I thought that was a little town in Wisconsin.
You'll find out. Say, floating around like that could be dangerous. Have you checked with the Consumer Product Safety Commission?
Well, not yet.
Come to think of it, you actually are flying, aren't you? Look, you need to go over to the Federal Aviation Administration and the Transportation...
It's very hard to get anything done these days if you're in business, but free enterprise built this country. Think what could happen if we don't keep it free. A public service of this station and the Center for the Defense of Free Enterprise, Bellevue, Washington.
Besides, we just can't have people floating about unregulated, you know.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and we're here talking about Tanya, and you don't want to be like Tanya, not knowing anything about cryptocurrency, and somehow gathering up, like, I think it was $168,000 worth of cryptocurrency.
Now, who produced this article?
This is MSNBC.
I'm just wondering if there's... I'm wondering if this is a hit piece. I'm wondering if...
Well, if it is, it's against Coinbase, but don't...
No, crypto in general. Coinbase just happens to be the name that everyone knows Coinbase and everyone knows Bitcoin.
Well, all of this can be avoided by learning about this world-changing technology. Instead of just trying to jump onto the fad train, actually learn about it so you don't end up like Tanya. You can do that at Bitcoin.com. Just click Getting Started at the top of the page, and you can learn all the basics about cryptocurrency in just a few minutes. Because otherwise, you run the risk of losing $168,000 because you didn't even know that you shouldn't leave your cryptocurrency sitting on Coinbase.
Yeah, that's rule number one. And we were talking about these SIM card hacks a moment ago, and we were talking further during the break. We're like, well, we got to clarify this for people because it's probably not that they're ordering a SIM card, the hacker or whatever. If you can use the term hacker, this is just a social engineer.
Most hacking is just...
Yeah, exactly. That's what hacking is. They just guess your password.
Right.
And they go to town. Everyone thinks it's some dude in a room, and he's got matrix lines all over the place.
With
code.
Yeah.
It's all no.
So they're probably not calling and asking to ship a SIM card because there's restrictions on that sometimes. But it might just simply be they've already got a blank phone or whatever. They got some throwaway phone or whatever. They call up. They pretend to be you. And the thing is, these phone companies, I called once, and I was like shocked, like, you're not going to ask me any other verification questions? It was so easy to get. There was almost none. There was almost no verification on. I forget which company it was at the time. And I'm like, really? You're just going to accept what I said? You didn't even ask me. My mother's maiden name. One of the basics, right? Like, there's nothing.
And was the tech you were talking to, was their first language not English?
No, it was English. It was absolutely English. And they're just following their script, what they're supposed to do. So the person calls in, pretends to be you. They have your phone number. They know which customer service, which company to call. And then they say, I have a new phone. I'd like to activate it on my account. And they read off the IMEI or whatever it's called, IMEI or something like that.
ID.
And they read off whatever the numbers the rep needs them to read, and then doop, doop, doop. Okay, thank you, sir. Have a nice day. We've updated your phone, and now they have your phone number. And then they try to log into Coinbase. And Coinbase, if you haven't set up the proper two-factor, which would be using an authenticator app,
like Google Authenticator or LastPass Authenticator, something that can't be manipulated so easily. SMS, that's text messaging. That's not two-factor authentication, not in any meaningful sense.
It was their first attempt at it, and that's why the Authenticator app started coming into popularity, because of these SIM card hacks. And then they got access to your account, which may have been what happened to this woman here.
Interviews with Coinbase customers around the country and a review of thousands of complaints reveal a pattern of account takeovers where users see money suddenly vanish from their account, followed by poor customer service from Coinbase that made those users feel left hanging and angry. See, these users, these thousands of complaints, they don't even know enough to know that Coinbase can't do anything about this. This is the user's fault, not Coinbase's. And they're upset, they're angry, I get it.
They're not going to be happy if they do get a customer service rep on the line, because that customer service rep is going to have to tell them, I'm sorry, sir, there's nothing we can do.
That's exactly the case. Their account had risen to $168,596 on April the 28th when the hack occurred. According to account statements they shared with MSNBC, the amount was essentially wiped out, leaving only $587 the next day.
Damn.
So Ben was also hit by this. He's a Virginia resident who asked that his last name be withheld. He saw thousands of dollars vanish. He logged into his Coinbase app in March, verified his identity with two-factor authentication, but over a 4-minute stretch, almost $35,000 in various coins disappeared from his account while he was actively logged in. So
what?
Yeah, I don't. That's weird. Like this, he logged in, and in the next 4 minutes, he saw all of his coins just vanishing. In response to his frantic email, Coinbase told Ben his computer had been hacked, and there wasn't anything the company could do. And that seems like
really suspicious sounding. I remember hearing a story recently as well about a guy who had his Coinbase account frozen for whatever reason. And then $20,000 worth of the value disappeared from it, and he couldn't get any answers from Coinbase about it.
Ooh, that is sketchy.
If Coinbase just wants to jack your money, what can you really do about that as well?
They probably have something in their terms and conditions that allow them to do that to an extent. I don't know, never having read them.
Yeah, who has?
So this guy's really baffled, and it seems to me that Coinbase did absolutely zero research and just said, hey, yeah,
sorry, bro.
Sorry. Well, it sounds to me, Ben, like you did zero research.
That's probably true.
So Coinbase
if you're leaving
responded,
your money on the exchange, you should know what the risks are, and the risks are you'll lose it. You'll either lose it through some sort of direct hack on your account, like they're talking about here, or the exchange itself and their cold wallet or whatever, their hot wallet, could get hacked.
Or they might decide to freeze you,
which also happens.
Right.
And you'll never get access to it again for whatever reason. If you're a criminal mastermind like this guy over here.
So Coinbase's regulatory response team noted that transactions on the blockchain are irrevocable and said Coinbase's insurance policy does not cover theft from individual accounts.
Mm-hmm.
There is no credible or supportable evidence that the compromise of your login credentials was the fault of Coinbase. As a result, Coinbase is unable to reimburse you for your alleged losses. I guess from Coinbase's point of view, they really have no proof that it wasn't Ben himself who did it.
That's true.
Eventually, the company sent a $200 credit, which, you should still go ahead and use to buy Bitcoin, and don't keep it on Coinbase, because $200 worth of Bitcoin, still better than $0 worth of Bitcoin. And who knows what the value of Bitcoin will be 10 years from now.
It's already up to 48 today. It's climbing.
Experts say that SIM swapping, which we talked about earlier, where fraudsters seize control of a victim's phone number and SIM card through their phone company, is to blame for many of the cryptocurrency thefts. So yes, don't keep your money on Coinbase, and use an authenticator app, not two-factor authentication, not text messaging, I mean.
The thing is, none of this is easy.
And God, not email.
None of this is easy. The two-factor authentication systems are good as far as security is concerned. But again, anytime you're dealing with security, it's going to be inconvenient. The more secure a thing is, the more difficult it is to get into and to deal with. If you have an authenticator app on your phone, but you didn't back up the authenticator code that they likely gave you when you first created the authenticator link, then if you lose that phone, getting back into that account is going to become a major pain in the butt.
It may be outright impossible in some cases. Yeah. So, you have to cover yourself. You have to be smart about it. But don't use email and don't use SMS. Use an actual authenticator app and find a way to actually maintain your code so that it's not just on one specific device. Because otherwise, you could lose everything. Professional hackers can steal all of your money in less than 30 minutes, said David Silver, who is an attorney who focuses on cryptocurrency. And this is one of the things that banks are going to use to prohibit customers from sending out cryptocurrency. They're going to say, hey, look, man, all of these people they lost their money. We're trying to protect you. That's coming up. You can join us 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Wagner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Karl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. President Biden says he's asked the Pentagon and the State Department to draw up contingency plans in case the timetable for America's military withdrawal from Kabul airport needs to change. He rebuffed demands today by G7 leaders for the U.S. military to remain in the Afghan capital for as long as necessary. And in a much-delayed appearance at the White House, he said he still hopes the mission can be completed by the end of the month.
We are currently on a pace to finish by August the 31st. The sooner we can finish, the better. Each day of operations brings added risk to our troops. But the completion by August 31st depends upon the Taliban continuing to cooperate and allow access to the airport for those who we're transporting out, and no disruptions to our operations.
But reports on the ground in Afghanistan indicate there are fresh disruptions by the Taliban to the evacuation effort, with Americans and Afghans alike claiming they cannot now get to the airport. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki today bristled when a reporter tried to raise a specific case with her.
If we are not in touch with this individual, give me their contact information and we will get in touch with them. If any of you are hearing from American citizens who can't reach us, give me their contact information and we will get in contact with them.
The president also said the threat of a terror strike on U.S. forces in Kabul is real. He said the longer they remain, the more they're at risk. Earlier today, the Taliban said it will no longer allow international forces to take Afghans out of the country. Spokesman Zahibullah Mujahid speaking through an interpreter.
We ask Americans to change their policies and don't encourage Afghans to leave. Please don't encourage our engineers, doctors and military personnel because we need them and their talent. Don't take them to foreign countries.
One other headline today, Charlie Watts of the Rolling Stones, one of the greatest drummers of all time, has died at the age of 80. News was announced in London. His publicist said he died in hospital surrounded by his family. Earlier this month, he said ill health would prevent him from touring with the Stones again later this year. In a recent interview, he reflected on one impact of the band's success.
It's very difficult to play in clubs with the Rolling Stones because there's so many people in them. So you can't really relax in clubs like we used to be able to.
Among those paying tribute today, Paul McCartney of the Beatles.
So sad to hear about Charlie Watts, the Stones drummer. Charlie was a rock and a fantastic drummer. Love you, Charlie, and great condolences and sympathies to his family.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us, 603-283-6160. If you want to do that, that's 603-283-6160. And this is an issue most people are never really going to deal with. The average person just doesn't see the issue that we talk about with banks. They're not running into banks trying to send wire transfers or do anything with cryptocurrency or trying to sell pornography on OnlyFans. But I am completely sick of banks trying to control what people can and can't do with their money. Mm-hmm. Now, we do have a story here about the OnlyFans CEO who is rightfully blaming banks for forcing the porn ban on their website. But before we get into that, I want to stay on cryptocurrency because you have a story about a bank in Britain that is refusing to allow their customers to send money to a cryptocurrency exchange.
Yeah, and it's just the latest one. By the way, this is coming from news.bitcoin.com from a little earlier this month. HSBC, which they've got branches in the United States as well, They are the latest British bank to announce that they have suspended payments to cryptocurrency exchange Binance. And Binance, for those that don't know, is the world's largest by volume cryptocurrency exchange at this time. And
they're pretty sleek. I mean, they have mechanisms of using debit cards at Binance, or at least Binance.us. I don't know about their worldwide site, but they're well known. They're popular. They are, as you said, the biggest cryptocurrency exchange in the world.
And it's actually debit and credit cards they are blocking specifically on this. I imagine they're going to block you from a wire transfer too, but the article is about...
what about ACH? Because Binance even does that, if I recall correctly.
Well, ACH doesn't exist in Europe. It's called something else, SEPA or something like that, SEPA. And so a consumer warning by the country's financial regulator was what the bank cited, the Financial Conduct Authority. The bank told its customers, "We've made this decision due to concerns about the possible risks to you. We're suspending payments to Binance," they say.
The only warning the regulatory commission should be giving is, hey, do your research, know about this thing before you purchase it.
We wanted to let you know in a notice that they sent to their customers, we're stopping payments from our credit cards to Binance wherever possible. And then, again, talking about the possible risks, we take our duty as...
Credit cards? Because Bank of America did this as well, but they only banned their credit cards from being used to buy cryptocurrency on Coinbase.
Not debit cards?
Not debit cards.
We take our duty as a responsible lender seriously, and we want to do everything we can to protect you. We'll continue to monitor the situation and let you know if anything changes. The bank cited the notice by the FCA, which issued a warning to consumers on the regulatory status of Binance in the UK. So, apparently Binance hasn't jumped through all the whatever stupid hoops the government has put up. Besides the FCA, a number of other regulators have issued similar warnings about Binance, including Malaysia, Japan, Cayman Islands, Hong Kong, Thailand, Germany, and Lithuania. And other British banks that have stopped payments to Binance include Barclays, Santander, and NatWest. So there's several companies here that are banking companies that are just saying no. In April, they changed their crypto policy at HSBC to bar clients from buying stocks from companies that even hold Bitcoin, such as MicroStrategy, which now holds more than 100,000 Bitcoin.
MicroStrategy, who is that?
There's some lunatic named Michael Saylor who's behind that particular company, and he's a Bitcoin maximalist. Who is not a good person for the cryptocurrency industry. He gets on national television interviews, and while he pimps and pumps Bitcoin, at the same time he's the worst kind of maximalist because he believes that people should still use dollars. That people should...
Oh, this is an investment type of maximalist?
Yeah. He believes totally that Bitcoin's all about saving, and that the people that are into Bitcoin should always use debit cards and PayPals and dollars in whatever format, because that's better than Bitcoin for spending, he says. He's right about that.
He's right.
But you shouldn't use dollars. If you care about freedom, you should be using other things like Bitcoin Cash or Dash or other cryptocurrencies, Monero, for instance.
Well, he can't consider the possibility of those because he's a Bitcoin maximalist.
Correct.
So that's unfortunate.
Well, obviously if he still supports the dollar, then what is he really? Why can't you use smaller cryptos like Monero?
Bitcoin maximalist is someone who believes that Bitcoin is the only viable cryptocurrency.
Correct, but then you have this other thing called the dollar that he says.
But it's not a cryptocurrency.
Yeah, but it's still a smaller piece of exchange that people can use on their daily lives. But what does he consider it? Competition? No, because it is.
No, he considers it money and Bitcoin to basically be an asset that people should be investing in rather than using.
That's right.
Which is toxic for the cryptocurrency world.
Yeah, he's not a good advocate for cryptocurrency.
So what if someone wanted to add money to their Cash App account with HSBC?
They'd probably be fine with that.
But you can use Cash App to buy Bitcoin.
True, good point. Yeah, that does say here that their policy bans clients from buying stocks of companies that hold Bitcoin. I don't know what that would mean as far as funding a PayPal or funding a Cash App. We don't know how detailed they've gotten on the ban here.
Okay.
But that's the update. That's the news. If you're in Great Britain, it's getting harder and harder to send your pound or whatever it is that you're using over there, the British pound, to Bitcoin exchanges.
And that sucks. But it's only going to get harder. because banks love telling people what they can and can't do with their money.
And they're going to start off. Well, they're going to start offering their own Bitcoin solutions for people.
And a lot of these guys are in bed with their government, who are all about regulating all cryptocurrencies because I can't even imagine how much revenue they are.
Well, we just talked about Coinbase's regulatory response team. I mean, that's essentially what they do, is make sure that their response is in line with regulations.
Yeah, but I mean, why is government so concerned? Is because they're missing out on a huge sum of revenue.
I don't think the government is missing out because it's got Coinbase and Kraken and Binance and Gemini and all of these other exchanges who are going to do the government's bidding for them.
Yeah, but my thing is, if the government doesn't know how much money you actually have, they can't tax you.
But Coinbase will tell them.
That's what I mean, and that's the other reason not to use Coinbase. And now my question is,
but that's the game they're trying to set up, Conan. Is that if you're an American and you want cryptocurrency, you have to go through one of these exchanges.
And my question is, how much reporting does Binance do?
All of it.
Okay, so what is the option?
If the IRS comes to one of these exchanges and says, "Hey, we want information on these customers," they're going to give it to them.
Right, correct.
So, I mean, that's their long-term plan, is to funnel everyone who wants cryptocurrency into Coinbase or Kraken or Gemini or Binance or one of these others that will just turn over all their information. They want to centralize cryptocurrency as much as they can, and Coinbase, Kraken, and all of these others. They want that because they want to be the next banks of the world, and that's essentially what they would be, the gatekeepers of cryptocurrency. Saying whether or not you can withdraw your cryptocurrency to pay for this transaction, or whether or not you can send to that address, or whether or not you have a good enough reason to make this purchase. That's what they want.
All the while paying lip service, like the president or CEO of Coinbase, Brian somebody, he said recently, it's all about decentralization.
Yes, he did say that. Well, they want all of the coins available, if I recall correctly, all the legal coins, he said, to be on Coinbase so that you have a decentralized way on us. He doesn't seem to know what decentralized means.
Does he really think that's possible? That anyone's
It's obviously impossible.
Yeah.
If it's all available through Coinbase, then it's not decentralized. It's
By
just
definition, that is not decentralization.
But, he's throwing that buzzword around to get people who like decentralization to think that, hey, maybe Coinbase isn't so bad. But if you pay any attention to what he actually said, he was like, no, this isn't going to be at all decentralized. We're just going to call it that.
Yep.
And that's how these people operate. That's what they're trying to set up, because that gives them money and it gives them power. Just like Pfizer, they're brandishing their, hey, look, we're the only fully approved COVID-19 vaccine.
It's still emergency use authorization, if I understand correctly.
The Pfizer is not.
I believe that it is actually, but it's just been approved.
No, it's been fully approved. Pfizer is fully approved for people, I believe, over the age of 16.
I don't recall the details about it because it's the FDA and I don't care what they have to say.
It's still an emergency use for young people under 16, 12 to 15 or something like that.
But in the case of Coinbase, you have this company that's pretty much doing exactly the same thing. Hey, look, we're fully regulated. We're complying with you, government. We want to help you. And they're going to use cryptocurrency. They're going to leverage it as a way of making themselves rich and powerful. And they've been very successful with that. Other companies not proving so successful these days. OnlyFans. No longer having porn. That's coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, where we invite you to join us. Bring up whatever you want to talk about, whatever is important to you. 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And there's an event coming up September the 4th at 3:33 p.m. You can join the Smiles and Hugs for Peace virtual event. But you don't need any internet or digital device to participate. The virtuality consists of the fact that Star Child will not be physically present, but will manifest for you to the extent that your magical thinking allows you to conjure his presence. Even if you don't know who or what he is, that's not an impediment to whatever magic you may experience. At approximately 3:33 p.m., you may hear the ringing of a bell or bells or other unusual sounds. Pause whatever you're doing, look around you, and start smiling. If you see someone else grinning, give that person a hug. If you see someone smiling and coming towards you, step up and give them a hug, because both smiling and hugs are healthy and good for you, containing no carcinogens, trans fats, or high fructose corn syrup, and hopefully no artificial ingredients. A world based on love and cooperation, not coercion, is possible. September the 4th at 3:33 p.m. Now, speaking of love or something like it, the OnlyFans CEO is blaming banks for forcing an unfair porn ban, saying we had no choice. This is Tim Stokely on Tuesday. He said the subscription platform's recent ban on porn is due to, quote, unfair treatment from banks. Now, This wasn't the only option. Getting rid of the thing that made them popular and successful was not the only option.
Clearly, they could have gone crypto.
Pornhub did exactly that when they began having issues, and as far as I'm aware, Pornhub is still operating just fine. Stokely, in an interview with Financial Times, said OnlyFans had no choice other than banning explicit sexual content because its banking partners would routinely point to reputation risk and would refuse the business. We had no choice but to ban porn. The short answer is the banks. The interview comes after OnlyFans last week said it would no longer allow sexually explicit content starting October the 1st. The London-based company said the decision was made to comply with the requests of its banking and lending partners. The decision was a stupid one. They used the word major, but let's be honest, this was a stupid decision considering OnlyFans, now with 130 million users and 2 million creators, built its company largely on creators posting adult content.
So you're telling me these banks are more interested in their reputation than making money? I'm not buying this at all.
How much money are they really? Well, they don't really need OnlyFans in order to make money. I mean,
yeah, but I mean,
they can just write more zeros.
Every little bit counts. Every little organization that they work with and monitor transactions and control the transactions are a little bit more for them, right? More money.
I don't think that's really true these days. Not with the fractional reserve limit going down to 0%. I mean,
you're thinking the reputation of these banks might actually be that important.
This is not new news as far as banks have been targeting pornographers for a long time. They don't generally allow like porn people to sign on to their credit card merchant accounts or whatever. So this is not an unbelievable thing that has happened here. And it's happened under Republican and Democrat administrations, because you might think, oh, well, it's George Bush or Donald Trump or whatever. That's, of course, they're going to crack down. No, it's just across the board. For whatever reason, they don't want to deal with certain business types. One of them's pornography. Another one is marijuana-related businesses. Cryptocurrency is another one. Yeah. Now, what are their reasons for it? That's open to speculation. You could speculate that they don't want the whatever negative publicity might come from the right-wing, religious right that might get up in arms.
I've heard it's the religious right that is largely responsible for this.
But I've got another. I was thinking about this today because another show was talking about it, and I thought, what about just the customer service issues of, what's that? You say an OnlyFans subscription showed up on my credit card? Yeah, I don't know how that got there. You're going to need to reverse that charge, right? Like, the wife caught the husband looking at the credit card statement. She finds him on OnlyFans or whatever, and then the bank has to
I saw
deal
your
with
face, and my response is the same. Just be honest. But the vast majority of people aren't.
It's 2021. How many people are actually worried about this kind of stuff anymore?
Well, a lot of people are steadily lying to their spouses and to their girlfriends, and they don't know how to be. The average person is not honest with their partner.
No, there's a ton of people who hide their habits like this, and if they get caught, they're going to deny it. They're, somebody must have gotten my card. No, I don't know how that got on there, honey. Then they call the bank and they deny it, and then the bank's like, well, it looks like it's legit, and now they got to deal with customer service issues.
Now, do they actually define pornography? I mean, if the girl is there,
they are banning everything that is sexually explicit.
They're allowing nudity.
So they would.
Yeah,
that's sexually explicit.
Well, they're saying, as I understand it, that they are allowing people to still post nudes. But so some decider at OnlyFans is going to have to decide whether or not the nude is or is not sexually explicit. Because if you're just nude, there's an argument that's not sexually explicit. I mean, we're all topless in the studio here tonight.
We're nude as far as the cameras know.
And that's not sexually explicit because we're not doing anything sexual with our topless bodies. But if you're doing something sexual in the nude photo, maybe it is sexually explicit.
All right, I don't know a whole lot about this site, but I do watch a lot of YouTubers who are crazy about this kind of stuff. This is like this is juicy stuff. This is spicy.
You mean this news story?
No, OnlyFans and these types of sites with these.
Why is it spicy? What do you mean?
I don't get it. I don't get it. Some of them are.
I know, but you're the one saying that using these terms to describe these.
Let's
people
explain the site for those that don't know.
If someone with a tank top with her nipples and everything's exposed, and she's doing jumping jacks, which is what these girls do.
Oh, so you do know about the site?
I've seen pictures. Let's just say I have.
Can I see your credit card statement, Conan?
No, you may not. No, is that sexually explicit? Doing jumping jacks?
That's going to be up to OnlyFans to decide.
Because they're already. This is how
if
these
she's
girls.
fully clothed, it doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah, but this is how these girls already push the boundaries to try to get away with.
Well, that's going to keep happening because they're going to come up with some arbitrary rule about what is and what is not sexual, and somebody's going to try to push the boundaries.
I mean, that's
on that.
literally what we're doing on tonight's show, really.
Well, except it's not sexual what we're doing. We are pushing boundaries with the streaming providers in that they have questionable policies about toplessness that are inconsistent and confusing at best. And thankfully, they've left us alone for the last, I don't know how many numbers of shows.
Time being. And by the way, I have never paid for anything sexually explicit in my life.
Why would you? You can find
because it's free.
Yeah.
I think that is what really blows my mind the most.
Someone
is
would
that
pay for it?
That you have these young ladies who are making a living off of poor incel dudes who
incels hate OnlyFans.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it makes them furious.
Because they're broke because of
they can't
OnlyFans?
make money like that? They're jealous?
Yes, that's exactly it. They're like, I wish I could just sell my body and make thousands of dollars a month or whatever.
Now,
by the way, this is just like scratch off tickets. It's just like alcoholics. It's just like any other kind of addiction. And that's what this category that I put these poor dudes in, who are just basically emptying their bank accounts to these girls doing jumping jacks. What the hell is that all about? So I guess I'm just kind of really,
from what I understand, there's actual
flabbergasted.
porn on this site too.
Yes.
I've not personally subscribed to that stuff, but I'm from what I understand, there's quite a bit of hardcore pornography on this particular site.
But then again, why would
pay
you
for it?
Why would you ever pay money for this stuff?
Because this isn't a pornography. I think I see the appeal of it.
Because you have a connection to this person.
It's not even that. It's that this is an average, ordinary person, not a porn actress. This is just an average, ordinary person that you find attractive and that you personally could have a realistic shot of actually meeting and having sex with.
That's probably not the case. But
Pornhub has lots of amateurs.
But in the mind of the user, they believe that to be true.
That's where I was going with that. They have a special connection with this girl that only looks at them and talks to them and then does jumping jacks for them.
Yeah, so is the term simp? Is that the term that I've heard?
A white knight and a simp. Yes, simp.
Simp is somebody who fawns over an individual online. They contribute to them on a regular basis. In the hopes that the person will identify them, in the hopes that the person will give a shout out to them, maybe speak to them on a private message or something like that. And that's sort of how the relationship begins. And then these girls that know how to work it, I'm sure they know how to do this because it's not easy, or it's not hard to do, I suspect, with desperate guys online that are lonely, is to give them a little bit of what they want, and then they can pay for the next tier, which is where they might get essentially turning into sort of rent an online girlfriend, basically, at the maximum level of support. I imagine they have different tiers of, okay, if you give me this much per month, then you get these pictures, but if you give me this much per month, I'll let you into my inner circle of rich
and this isn't anything new too, because I mean you've had prostitution and you've had pole dancers.
This is better than prostitution.
I know,
because they don't even have to do anything.
Because instead of having maybe 50 dudes at the club, the dance club, now you have 50,000.
But you also have thousands of competitors as well, so the prices are to some extent driven down because of that. Because nudes are proliferating.
Right.
Good point. When we come back, masks aren't effective, and it seems neither are the COVID-19 shots. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Free speech is protected on the internet, right? Not always. Government agencies try to limit free speech and commerce on the net. Luckily, when they do, the Institute for Justice is there to defend your First Amendment right to free speech. IJ helped set the first federal precedent for internet free speech in 1999, and ever since has worked to prevent unconstitutional roadblocks in cyberspace. Visit our website today at ij.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. President Biden says he's asked the Pentagon and the State Department to draw up contingency plans in case the timetable for America's military withdrawal from Kabul airport needs to change. He rebuffed demands today by G7 leaders for the U.S. military to remain in the Afghan capital for as long as necessary. And in a much-delayed appearance at the White House, he said he still hopes the mission can be completed by the end of the month.
We are currently on a pace to finish by August the 31st. The sooner we can finish, the better. Each day of operations brings added risk to our troops. But the completion by August 31st depends upon the Taliban continuing to cooperate and allow access to the airport for those who we're transporting out, and no disruptions to our operations.
But reports on the ground in Afghanistan indicate there are fresh disruptions by the Taliban to the evacuation effort, with Americans and Afghans alike claiming they cannot now get to the airport. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki today bristled when a reporter tried to raise a specific case with her.
If we are not in touch with this individual, give me their contact information and we will get in touch with them. If any of you are hearing from American citizens who can't reach us, give me their contact information and we will get in contact with them.
The president also said the threat of a terror strike on U.S. forces in Kabul is real. He said the longer they remain, the more they're at risk. Earlier today, the Taliban said it will no longer allow international forces to take Afghans out of the country. Spokesman Zahibullah Mujahid speaking through an interpreter.
We ask Americans to change their policies and don't encourage Afghans to leave. Please don't encourage our engineers, doctors and military personnel because we need them and their talent. Don't take them to foreign countries.
One other headline today, Charlie Watts of the Rolling Stones, one of the greatest drummers of all time, has died at the age of 80. News was announced in London. His publicist said he died in hospital surrounded by his family. Earlier this month, he said ill health would prevent him from touring with the Stones again later this year. In a recent interview, he reflected on one impact of the band's success.
It's very difficult to play in clubs with the Rolling Stones because there's so many people in them. So you can't really relax in clubs like we used to be able to.
Among those paying tribute today, Paul McCartney of the Beatles.
So sad to hear about Charlie Watts, the Stones drummer. Charlie was a rock and a fantastic drummer. Love you, Charlie, and great condolences and sympathies to his family.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, an eyewitness account from Poland's border with Belarus, scene of reportedly forced migrations of Belarusians into European Union territory. The authorities in Warsaw say they're going to build a security fence along the border now and double the number of troops posted there after the EU accused Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko of deliberately trying to flood Poland and other EU member states with refugees. Brussels believes it's a retaliation for European sanctions imposed on Belarus following President Lukashenko's crackdown there. Claudia Ciobanu is a Polish journalist just back to Warsaw from the border.
we were simply walking in one of the villages nearby the border, and we heard on the Belarusian side a truck driving in. And minutes later, we did see migrants emerging on the Polish side. The villagers in the houses nearby the border, they said, here it is. It's the time of day when they are bringing in migrants. And there's more and more testimonies to this extent. It does seem to be the case that the Belarusian authorities are indeed driving migrants to the border.
The Polish government says the bewildered arrivals are not refugees, but economic migrants forced to make the journey by the government in Minsk. Some human rights groups are urging the Polish government to be more humane in its approach to the situation. The main news again. President Biden says he's asked the Pentagon and the State Department to draw up contingency plans in case the timetable for America's military withdrawal from Kabul airport needs to change. He says the longer U.S. forces remain on the ground in the Afghan capital, the greater the risk of a terror attack against them. And fulsome tributes are being paid to Charlie Watts, the Rolling Stones drummer who has died at the age of 80. And that is the latest feature story news. Simon Marks reporting.
We have a breaking news blast on the tragic situation happening across the country in which more than 40,000 Americans have been trapped in a Confessions animal hoarding marathon on Animal Planet for the last 13 hours. The Animal Hoarders marathon began at 9 this morning as victims were preparing for a full day before hearing the fateful sound of the show's opening credits. Almost instantly, thousands were pinned to their couches by a story of a heavyset homosexual living with his partner, his toothless sister, and 31 chihuahuas. Rescue workers rushed to free as many victims as they could.
The rope secure? Rope secure. We're gonna get you out of here. Just hold on a second, ma'am.
Wait, I think the next one is about monkeys.
Ready? Ready! Pull!
No, wait. Can I just see what happens with the feral cat?
In other parts of the country, rescue workers enlisted volunteers who had already seen the episodes to spoil them for the victims.
Oh, yeah, this one. This is about the lady living with the dogs in the trailer. She doesn't even get evicted in the end.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You're invited to join us, 603-283-6160. That's the call-in line, 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Aria.
Ian.
And Conan.
And as promised, I want to get into this article from MSNBC because I love everything about it. COVID booster shots are coming, and the world isn't happy. The Biden administration... I know, those poor people.
Yeah.
The world may be happy or unhappy. I don't really know, but it seems that this particular author, whether she wants to admit it or not, or he, the name is Hayes, so it could go either way, and plus it's MSNBC, so it could be Z or whatever. So the Biden administration announced Wednesday that for Americans who have already received both shots of the Moderna or Pfizer COVID vaccines, a third booster shot will be available starting September the 20th.
Will be available. Now, is he...
It means they're authorizing them to begin on September the 20th. But right now, a booster shot is not authorized.
But no one's come out and says that you have to get this thing in order to be... Because here's the big...
After September.
Israel is already allowing booster shots, and to be fully vaccinated in Israel now, you do have to have 3 shots. Yes.
Correct. What is fully vaccinated now that boosters are available?
But you know, what if you just now get the second shot?
Mm-hmm. And what if you Johnson & Johnson? The bad news bears on the bench.
Yeah. Well, I guess it would be your second shot.
Which, by the way, if anyone is going to get any of this nonsense, go with the Johnson & Johnson. If you have to do this because you want to get on a plane and you want to go on a cruise with your mom,
go with the old school
style.
Go
with the old school. Don't go with this new crap. Just let the guinea pigs work it out, and we'll see what happens in 5 years.
The announcement wasn't necessarily a surprise. The administration already gave the green light for immunocompromised people to get their extra doses several days ago. In essence, though, the U.S. government has taken a weighty moral decision, one with an international impact, and tossed it into the laps of its people. So rather than making a weighty moral decision of its own accord, the U.S. government said, no, the people are going to make this decision. And this
That's
author,
not what they said.
No, that's not at all what they said, but that's how this author portrays it, and this author thinks that's a negative thing to do. I, for one, think it would be better for the people to make their own decisions, but hey, whatever. I know what I'm going to do, but I'm still trying to work out how I feel about it. When the vaccines were first authorized for emergency use in December, a basic economic conflict was at work. The demand, especially in those early days, drastically outstripped the extremely limited supply. Stories abounded of people lying about pre-existing conditions and comorbidities, flying overseas to access other countries' supply, pulling strings, and all manner of other shenanigans just to get dosed. That's sad. I didn't read any articles about that at the time.
There were lots of them. Couples flying to Canada to get a shot. But all rich people got it early on.
Sure.
And they probably got the good stuff too.
What do you mean?
The stuff that's the good, clean stuff.
Oh.
The placebos.
But by early May, the paradigm had flipped. Thanks to political misinformation, economic hurdles, and downright lack of interest, the U.S. vaccine supply exceeded and still exceeds demand. But as the Delta variant of the coronavirus has surged and as new evidence shows that the efficacy of vaccines is waning over time, the country's public health agencies...
Because it's not a vaccine.
Yeah, hello, Israel. Over almost 80% vaccinated, and they're going... Cases are out of control as we speak.
Aren't they having to toss out some of these vaccines because they've gotten to their shelf life, essentially? They're too old.
I think I heard something about that recently. Yeah. I do have a story about Israel coming up later because, yes, they do have one of the highest vaccination rates in the world, and it doesn't seem to be helping.
No.
The data...
Iceland as well.
Yes. The data the CDC released Wednesday, quote, stopped short of proving that a third dose would be any more effective in preventing severe outcomes than the current 2-dose series.
But you should get one anyway.
Yes. So the data basically does not say that a third dose would be more effective. Instead, the plan from the CDC, the FDA, and the National Institute of Health is meant to be, quote, an offensive move against COVID-19 in advance of winter. So they're hoping that it's going to be more effective because that's all they've got at this point.
Right. They're admitting the evidence doesn't show it, but go ahead, cross your fingers, and dose up because we said so.
Yep. And keep buying, keywords there, buying our vaccine. Taxpayers, taxpayers, by the way, buying Pfizer's vaccine and Moderna and whoever else.
Well, now it's probably going to be only Pfizer because Moderna doesn't have the approval. Pfizer
not
just
yet.
got theirs. I mean, they might get it next week. Who knows? But for now, I don't think they're going to be able to offer the Moderna vaccine.
I think they still can because it's still authorized under emergency use.
Okay.
But I don't know. But that would make total sense in a vacuum. No, it wouldn't make sense in a vacuum for the government to be recommending people get a third shot when it has no evidence that a third dose is any more effective in preventing severe outcomes than the current 2-dose series. As the author of this article just admitted, that's straight from the CDC, and then suddenly, well, that would make total sense in a vacuum, but it doesn't. That is, if the pandemic were limited to the U.S. After all, with over 300 million people, the vast majority of whom are eligible to be vaccinated, that's a lot of potential hosts for the Delta variant to spread and perhaps further mutate. Better to play it safe than to play catch up again this winter, that thinking goes.
There's already headlines about a new variant that's supposed to be worse than Delta. You knew they were coming. You knew it was coming.
Obviously, because that's how colds work.
Yeah.
But the global demand for vaccines has stayed high, and that's where the morality of this policy is on shaky grounds. COVAX, the UN-backed vaccine distribution program, has shipped out 209 million doses of vaccine to 138 countries, which sounds impressive until you remember that even last month, before the booster shot announcement, it was predicted that most low-income countries wouldn't get enough doses until 2023. We're planning to hand out extra life jackets to people who already have life jackets while we're leaving other people to drown without a single life jacket. The fact that they're comparing these to life jackets when life jackets work. I even have a life jacket for my dog. They work. You can physically watch a life jacket working.
But also, most people don't need a life jacket because with an immune system, effectively, you can swim. Like your body can take care of itself. You don't need all this scaredy cat stuff.
And or in another analogy, you're always swimming in the short end of the pool.
Yeah, also true.
You're good to go. That's your immune system right there.
It's fine.
I know.
Right.
Just like that meme with the guy drowning and he's sitting on the bottom of the floor. with his face coming out of the water?
I haven't seen that.
It's ridiculous.
There is a bit of the Titanic's first steerage class never energy to this plan. Here we are in a country, even before the vaccines were manufactured, hoarded the vast majority of them in production by buying up enough doses for everyone in the world's third most populous country. And even as tens of thousands of doses have begun to expire for lack of willing recipients, there are still people who refuse to believe that we've even struck an iceberg. So she's also not happy about the lack of willing recipients. Meanwhile, African health officials have said that fewer than 2% of the people on the world's second largest continent are fully vaccinated. We have people in sizable numbers who have zero protection, said Ruth
But yet
Baden.
we're not hearing about massive deaths on the African continent.
Exactly. By the way, I have an article from Quartz. Why has COVID-19 had less of an impact on Africa? And it goes down the list of reasons why they think Africa hasn't been affected. But I'm thinking
that sounds like it'll be fun to get into.
Right. Well, let's save that. Let's put that on the burner then.
Yeah. So this brings us all back to the administration's decision to promote third doses in a country that doesn't have a federal vaccination mandate. Just as there's no overarching rule that demands that Americans get either of the first two shots, there's nothing saying people will have to get their booster doses either. And some experts, including MSNBC columnist...
Well, there's not nothing. There are government mandates, not federal, but there are, Los Angeles, County, the San Francisco, the, New York City. I mean, there's all kinds of cities that are starting to mandate
But
vaccines.
she wants a federal one.
I know, that's what she wants. She's acting like there's nothing out there that's incentivizing people to get this thing. There's all kinds of, not just carrots, but sticks out there that the government is using.
However, speaking of success, I saw in the Keene Sentinel today that Keene State College cannot require vaccinations for their students because of the recent legislation passed in New Hampshire.
Public places.
Yes.
They get public money, so they're public.
So they wanted to require vaccinations. And thanks to the Liberty Movement here in New Hampshire, they weren't allowed to. There's more coming up from MSNBC. It's Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com. Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Negotiation isn't just something union leaders and sports agents do. Your entire day is a series of negotiations. If you have young children, you know that. In fact, your kids can teach you a lot about negotiating with grown-ups. According to the world's greatest negotiator, Herb Cohen, author of You Can Negotiate Anything. Herb says that kids understand the process of decision-making within an organization. organization. When one parent says no, they'll ask the other. And Cohen says children persist and persevere. And like smart negotiators of all ages, kids know that no is an opening bargaining position. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important, especially if you're a job seeker. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live with Arya, Ian, and Conan, and I gotta tell you, I'm a little bit surprised to see night number 2 of being back on the Free Talk Live YouTube channel, given that how ready they have been in the past to hand out content strikes over, quote, medical misinformation. Of course, they're not alone. Twitch is also doing it. DLive seems fairly not heavy-handed.
Have we been struck by Twitch over that?
Not over that.
Okay.
No. But we were struck.
But you've heard that they're doing that on Twitch?
Twitch? No.
Oh, okay.
But they censor for other reasons. I mean, that's one of the reasons we expected to get hit on Twitch, is because we're doing the show Topless.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they were doing so-called medical misinformation on Twitch. It is Amazon, after all.
But they're censoring everywhere for all manner of reasons. It's a really good time to get away from that. So if you're a content creator, you might want to check out Odyssey. We have a channel there. You can find it at video.freetalklive.com. There, we can't be censored. So even if Twitch takes us down, YouTube takes us down, Facebook takes us down, we're still over at video.freetalklive.com. There, you can find the full history, I think, of video shows on Library, and Odyssey is the front-facing.
I don't know if it's full. I mean, we've been streaming for a long time, and honestly, I don't know if there's any full history of videos, but it's a good one. It's a lengthy one.
Yeah, but it's years worth at the very least.
So how when you guys connected to that, did they just sucked up your YouTube account, or you had to
Odyssey
upload each one individually?
So easy. No, that would be insane.
Insane. I know, right? I saw that. I was like, holy crap! How did all these episodes get on the Library?
Yeah, no, the whole Free Keene channel's up there too, with 1,000 videos or whatever. So that's the cool thing about Odyssey is now when you sign up for your Odyssey account, because as a user you still need, like with YouTube, you have to have an account to have subscriptions and to comment and things like that. So when you sign up at odyssee.com,
weird spelling,
or just go to video.freetalklive.com. When you sign up there, it's a checkbox, right? When you first sign up is, I have a YouTube account and I'd like to ingest my videos into Odyssey, and then they take you through whatever. It's super easy, the steps. You authorize your Google account with them, and then boom, the ingestion starts. And it can take, I think, upwards of a week. Like if you've got a big channel with a lot of videos on it, it takes time, right? Like 'cause they literally have to copy over all the MP4 files from the back end of YouTube and put in all the descriptions. So it gets done. And then at that point, if you continue posting to YouTube, then they will ingest each file as it gets posted to YouTube. So you're constantly mirrored.
Vice versa? Odyssey to
Is that still set up? If so, isn't Odyssey receiving 2 copies of each of our videos?
I turned it off.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So you already thought about that.
Since we're doing Odyssey directly now, we're streaming to Odyssey, we take the time to actually kind of customize the Odyssey file every night with a show description. We don't take the time to do that on YouTube, but we do it on Odyssey, so
why do it when YouTube's ultimately going to just shut us down?
Yeah, it's not worth the time.
Right. Well, let's go to the phones. We have Jeanette calling from San Diego. Jeanette, you're on Free Talk Live. As soon as I unmute you.
Thanks for taking my call.
Hi, Jeanette.
What's on your mind tonight?
Hi, thanks for taking my call. Well, before I forget, I just want to say thank you to Free Talk Live. This is one of the things that's helped keep me sane for the last year and a half. So thank you for helping me keeping from not going crazy.
Wow, you're welcome. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. I want to talk about how to be friends with people who are still afraid of COVID. I have a group of high school friends that I've been friends with for almost 20 years. And because of COVID, we haven't really hung out. They've been afraid. Cases are high, whatever. We were supposed to hang out in December 2020, but they're like, oh, cases are still high. We're not vaccinated yet. Let's keep doing virtual hangouts. I said, okay, fine.
Jesus, that was around the time that we threw a New Year's Eve party.
Right? Are these friends local? Are these friends local? Do you have to drive to them?
No, we all live here in San Diego.
So you're having video conferencing with your friends who just basically live across the street?
Well, San Diego's a fairly big city.
But it is California.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So we finally hung out again in May 2021. They wore their masks. I didn't. Hung out again in July. They wore their masks. I didn't. And then we hung out again this last weekend. And then a couple of hours before we were supposed to hang out, one of my friends said, oh, cases are still high, so just so you know, I'm going to wear my mask. I'm like, okay, whatever, cool. And then about an hour before we hung out, she messaged me and she said, oh, I just wanted to ask, are you vaccinated? And I said, no, I'm not. And then she asked, would you mind wearing your mask? And I said, yes, I would. I'm not sick. I haven't been around anyone that's been sick. I'm not wearing my mask. And
I'm sure that did not go over very well.
It went over better than I thought. I'm sure she probably thought that I was going to say, oh, sure, yes, no problem. But no, I am done with wearing my mask besides when I absolutely have to, which is at work. And yeah, so we all hung out. Like I said, they wore their masks. I didn't. I just try to avoid the subject of COVID.
It's sad to think that your friends are asking you whether or not you're vaccinated.
Well, it's social pressure. I mean, it's not surprising. These, people know that if they use social pressure, that they're going to get some percentage of their friends who were sticks in the mud to move.
But in this circumstance, if you are a rock and you stand up for what you believe, and hey, look, I'm not sick. I haven't been around when I'm sick. This is dumb. I mean, she didn't yell at you or anything. She didn't unfriend you. So obviously, she is willing to deal with you,
which is good.
Correct. So are you asking? Are you asking how to deal with your friends, or are you telling us how to deal with friends?
No, I'm asking how do I deal with it because now and then the next day they said, oh, you know what? Since cases are still high, I think we should go back to doing virtual hangouts.
The cowardice.
I'm just like at an impasse because at this point I know I'm never going to get vaccinated.
Sure. You know what? You might be in the wrong state. What's keeping you there?
I know. That's what my husband said you guys were going to say when I called.
Yes.
I know. And I signed the...
I mean, you can hang out with your friends virtually from New Hampshire.
I know. You are already... That is your only connection with your friends these days is virtual. So you might as well move. And maybe you'll meet some people who are not on that same fence.
Well, she was saying something about you signed Free State. What were you saying there?
Yeah, I did sign the Free State Project way back in the day in 2013. And then I got married and I had kids and my whole family is out here and my husband's family's out here. We are thinking of moving, but I told them the farthest I'll go is Arizona. That's still a 5-hour drive from here.
Well, they say New Hampshire is the #1 place in the United States to raise a family.
I know. If it wasn't for my parents and my husband's parents, I would be on the next plane to New Hampshire because I cannot take any more of this.
Plus, I mean, I saw an article today in the Keene Sentinel that said that KSC, that's Keene State College here in Keene, they wanted to have a vaccination requirement for their students, but because of legislation that was passed largely as a result of Liberty representatives that are here as part of the Free State Project, they're not able to do that. So Keene State College, they want a vaccine requirement, but New Hampshire already beat them to it and said, no, government can't do that.
Can be no government vaccine mandates in New Hampshire.
Which includes colleges and schools. A hell of a success, and I was happy to read it. Thank you, Jeanette, for the call.
And we're just getting started.
Get out of that hellhole, girl.
Yep.
Yeah,
More coming up here from this hysterical person at MSNBC. It's Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live's video archives have been on Library for years. Library is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, Library launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off. Now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odyssey today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. President Biden says he's asked the Pentagon and the State Department to draw up contingency plans in case the timetable for America's military withdrawal from Kabul airport needs to change. He rebuffed demands today by G7 leaders for the U.S. military to remain in the Afghan capital for as long as necessary. And in a much-delayed appearance at the White House, he said he still hopes the mission can be completed by the end of the month.
We are currently on a pace to finish by August the 31st. The sooner we can finish, the better. Each day of operations brings added risk to our troops. But the completion by August 31st depends upon the Taliban continuing to cooperate and allow access to the airport for those who we're transporting out, and no disruptions to our operations.
But reports on the ground in Afghanistan indicate there are fresh disruptions by the Taliban to the evacuation effort, with Americans and Afghans alike claiming they cannot now get to the airport. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki today bristled when a reporter tried to raise a specific case with her.
If we are not in touch with this individual, give me their contact information and we will get in touch with them. If any of you are hearing from American citizens who can't reach us, give me their contact information and we will get in contact with them.
The president also said the threat of a terror strike on U.S. forces in Kabul is real. He said the longer they remain, the more they're at risk. Earlier today, the Taliban said it will no longer allow international forces to take Afghans out of the country. Spokesman Zahibullah Mujahid speaking through an interpreter.
We ask Americans to change their policies and don't encourage Afghans to leave. Please don't encourage our engineers, doctors and military personnel because we need them and their talent. Don't take them to foreign countries.
One other headline today, Charlie Watts of the Rolling Stones, one of the greatest drummers of all time, has died at the age of 80. News was announced in London. His publicist said he died in hospital surrounded by his family. Earlier this month, he said ill health would prevent him from touring with the Stones again later this year. In a recent interview, he reflected on one impact of the band's success.
It's very difficult to play in clubs with the Rolling Stones because there's so many people in them. So you can't really relax in clubs like we used to be able to.
Among those paying tribute today, Paul McCartney of the Beatles.
So sad to hear about Charlie Watts, the Stones drummer. Charlie was a rock and a fantastic drummer. Love you, Charlie, and great condolences and sympathies to his family.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join us 603-283-6160 if you want to weigh in, talk about whatever's important to you. That's 603-283-6160. And with you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Ian.
And Conan.
And I want to say thank you to Troy, who is tonight's amplifier. That means that Troy is a member of the AMP program. You can find all about it at amp.freetalklive.com. That's amp.freetalklive.com. It stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote, because it's money that is used strictly to advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live. So if you value having a libertarian radio show that allows you to call in and express your opinions on national radio, you might consider joining. That's amp.freetalklive.com. $5 gets you in. It comes with a number of cool little perks like an AMP-only Facebook group. But really, the reason you should join is because you value the show and you want us reaching a larger audience. So thank you so much, Troy, for the contributions, and we hope you continue amplifying. Speaking of taking calls from people, we do have callers on the line. We've got Chris calling from Florida. Chris, you're on Free Talk Live.
Thank you so much for taking my call, Aria, and Conan, the Barbarian.
The libertarian.
Is there as well. So, that's, yeah, of course. My apologies. And Ian Freeman, I love that name. I always come back to it. It sort of means I am free man, if
Thanks,
you really
man.
break it down, which is cool. But I'm more excited about something. I think, Ian, you know what I'm about to say, because I am a lover of the Topless Tuesdays, and I'll tell you what, I thought it was never coming back. You guys told me it was never coming back. I had given up on it, and then I tune in, and what do I see? It's Topless Tuesdays, baby!
Man, I'm glad somebody likes it. I don't think we ever said it was never coming back. I don't remember saying that.
It is our second most watched night
I promise you,
of the
Ian,
week.
you said that. I promise you said that, Ian. It's a big part of my life, Topless Tuesdays. I would even check all the weather patterns in New Hampshire because you told me it was a weather issue. You said, oh, it's too cold now. So I checked the weather patterns, and it got hot, and you didn't bring the Topless Tuesdays back. And I thought, why is he lying to me?
Maybe it's not coming back this year because there's about 6 months out of the year where it's just not.
It ain't gonna happen.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, maybe that's what I meant.
But that's what he tried to tell me before, Conan. But I don't.
Well, for a while last year, it was just me and Conan on Tuesdays, and Conan, whether or not he was topless, I wasn't going to be then for whatever reason.
If I could go topless, I'm going topless. All right, so what's going on, man?
Topless Tuesdays are back. I love topless.
I'm going to have to interrupt you, man. Thank you so much for the support. That wasn't what you called in about tonight, though. Is it gone?
There was some sort of yelling at the last bit of that. I don't know what it was.
Well, I'm assuming he's gone. But, hey, yeah, I'm glad Chris, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Wait, where was he calling from?
Florida.
Watch.freetalklive.com will take you right to the live stream. So there's video.freetalklive.com that takes you to our channel on Odyssey, so you can watch past episodes. And if we are live, there's usually a link there. But if you just want to go straight to the live feed, watch.freetalklive.com will take you right to it.
Where does that go to?
The Odyssey live stream.
Oh, okay. I got you. Video goes to the
channel.
Okay, gotcha.
Because if he's from Florida, that's where Ian and I grew up. Aria, you Mississippi.
Sure.
8 months out of the year, I was just shorts. So I mean, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around this guy's infatuation with nipples.
Yeah, he likes what he likes.
Unless that's why he moved to Florida, just so he can see it 8 months out of the year.
Well, we also have CW calling from California, listening on K-Talks, also affiliated with K-Talks, if I remember correctly. CW, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hello?
Are you with us?
Muted?
No, he's not muted.
CW.
We'll come back to that. We'll give our old favorite James a shot here if he's actually going to have a topic to talk about. James, you're on Free Talk Live. And he's
Conan, the toilet paper boy delivery man.
And dog food and cat food. Don't forget.
When I was watching the local news in Boise, Idaho yesterday, and it broadcast a story from Bend, Oregon, ICU unit, and a good doctor with a mask on was literally begging, imploring everybody in the viewing audience to wear their mask because at her job, the ICU is overloaded, maxed out with COVID patients, of which a number of them died the night before and were on their deathbed at that very moment. So should I take your non-doctor's advice and listen to a man that grew up obviously in the lower west side of the bell curve, otherwise known as South Florida, like you.
Central Florida.
Yeah, the same thing. It's even more redneck. Explains your lack of education and perspective. Take a shot at me. Let me respond anytime.
Hey, you know what?
The question, was she being hysterical?
I'm from Mississippi. It's more redneck than both of those places.
Was the doctor being hysterical, or are you just a stupid retard conspiracy theorist, brain dead loser?
Do you think I get all of my information from just Google searches?
Answer the question.
Let me tell you a little about let me tell you a little bit about my background.
Was the doctor being hysterical?
My father is a retired cardiologist. My mother is a retired RN.
Was the doctor in the IC unit?
Both are against this nonsense. Both have told me plenty of stories about the people who work in these industries. Yes, you're going to have people who are all on board. Yes, you're going to have people who are telling people not to smoke and then are going out to their smoke break.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you're going to have a lot of bureaucrats who are all you got to do is follow that money. They're the ones, when you had this South Florida walk away, where you had doctors out protesting, just what you're talking about, James. This the
70 doctors or something
75
like
doctors walked out, of course, very misleading. This came out yesterday. It was just a protest. They all went back to work. But yes, you're going to have people in these industries who are going to claim that the unvaccinated are causing all of the issues. They're causing all the problems. Here's the truth of the matter. They want to go back to normal too. And they believe, because they've been told by snake oil salesmen like Fauci, that the only way to go back to normal is to take the vaccines and to wear these masks. No, the death rate hasn't skyrocketed. No, there's not dead people out in the ditch when I came here to work tonight.
Yes, but to be fair, you didn't answer the question about
which was what?
About whether the doctor who was crying in the ICU is hysterical.
You're going to have weak people out there who are going to listen to the mainstream, and they're going to believe everything that they've been told, and they're going to and the thing about
his ICU was full.
Yeah, probably 10 beds out of 100 beds. That's how they set the ICU beds up. It's not the whole damn hospital. You tell me that the whole hospital is full and people are being sent away, and they're having to actually leave and go to another hospital. How many of those situations are taking place, James? Nah, they probably have 3 damn ICU beds in the whole hospital, and probably all 3 of them are filled, because you know what? The hospital doesn't want empty beds, because they lose money that way, you idiot.
James, do you have a response? Oh, I hit the hold button again. James, do you have a response?
Yes, I stand by everything I just said about Conan.
Yeah, we had you muted the entire time, so
he's I know that. Okay. I'm answering your question, of which he had to be implored to answer a simple yes or no answer. And of course, his stock and trade answer, being the skull F that he is a conspiracy theory. Oh, she wants the money. They're in it for the money. There are only 3 bedrooms in a Bend, Oregon ICU, which is not a podunk town like Keene. You're a complete loser. You are an absolute...
Well, thank you at least for having an actual dialogue with us.
Yeah, it was the best call from James in a long time, I got to say.
It's very calm. Yeah. I think he's been planning that one. He probably didn't drink tonight. He wanted.
He drank tonight.
Not enough.
Look, just because they can find some doctor to go cry on television doesn't mean boo to me.
2 weeks ago, it was some lady in Alabama who had the same exact message.
I never considered that reality that, when you say the ICU beds are full, I'm like, oh man, that does sound bad. But yes, I've been to hospitals before, and they don't have a whole lot of ICU beds, because most of their patients that are going to come in and out don't need intensive care.
Correct. And I just drove by our hospital here in Keene. We only have one of them. The parking lot is empty. There's no one in there.
Yeah. How many ICU beds are there at Cheshire County?
Not sure. Probably 10 out of the whole building.
It'd be worth looking into. But I certainly don't know the answer. When we get back, as promised, this MSNBC author wants you to know that she's conflicted about getting the booster shot. But that's not going to stop her. And neither is the lack of science backing the need for a booster shot. More about that coming up. 603-283-6160. If you want to join us at 603-283-6160, it's Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live.
There's only one place you could have sex without everybody else knowing about it. That's in the bathroom. Unless you want to go back into the crew quarters, which might give you bonus points. The Mile High Club awards you, I suppose, based on the amount of times that you've entered into the club. Not only do you want to be in the club, you want to be the top dog.
Yeah,
right?
you got to be a premier member.
So I would think there'd have to be points for location on the plane, who you encountered with. Were you there with your girlfriend? Did you take her into the bathroom? Did you manage to get a stewardess into the bathroom with you? Did you manage to get the girl that you just happened to be sitting next to on the plane? I mean, so all of these things could be worth.
Oh, man. To be a part of the Mile High Club, what's the criteria?
You have to
copulate in the air.
Yeah.
What defines copulation? Who has to have an orgasm? Does there have to be an orgasm?
Or do you just have to step it in and pull it out?
Is it just penetration?
Bam, we're out of here. Mile High Club, give me my card.
Yeah.
You know?
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live with Arya, Ian, and Conan. Talking about this article from NBC. But if you want to call in and weigh in on it, 603-283-6160 is the number to do that. That's 603-283-6160, because this poor author is so conflicted with emotions, and the possibility of a booster shot makes her even more conflicted. And she has no idea how the booster campaign will alter current mandates and regimens from cities, states, and businesses that require people to be vaccinated for employment, for access to services. And that's another really good question. You know, businesses that require you to be vaccinated, are they going to require you to have a booster shot? If so, how long? Do they?
Yes, I suspect they will.
I suspect they will as well.
And they'll give you some time window.
Yeah.
You know, as long as they're going to be okay with you if you've gotten 2 shots, right? Like you get to keep your job if you've got the second shot, and they're going to tell you, okay, within the next 4 months or whatever, you got to get a third one, or 3 months or whatever arbitrary time frame.
And then in another 4 months, a fourth one.
Oh yeah, they're going to keep pushing this stuff.
Well, there are 4 entries on your Vax card that they hand you out.
Oh, it's going to go way beyond 4, man.
It's going to be a booklet. It's going to be like a passport. You get a stamp from every country you've been to.
Pfizer, there's an article coming out from Israel that I want to talk about, but in there they mentioned that Pfizer has a mechanism in place where from the rise of a new variant that can resist the vaccine, within 35 days, they will have a new version of the vaccine for that variant. So they're already planning for it. They know the variants are coming. They've already created all of the industrial mechanism they will need to pump out a new vaccine in 35 days.
Money.
Pumping that money.
Why did the CIA leave Afghanistan?
They don't need the poppies anymore.
Why did Big Pharma leave? Exactly. Well, now they've got their fentanyl, which they make in the laboratory.
Yeah.
And they've got this. They don't need to grow poppies anymore. No. How do you like
Good
that?
Point. But I do know, this is the author speaking, that any changes made without a full federal mandate or its equivalent maintains the current paradigm in which vaccination is deemed a personal choice rather than a public health necessity.
Oh yeah, this is a push, this person and others pushing for mandates, a federal mandate, and there's not going to be I think a lessening amount of voices pushing for this. You're going to hear more and more of this fear-mongering, and we want mandates is what they're going to say.
Once the FDA eventually grants full approval to the vaccine, so this article did not come out yesterday or today, the absence of clear guidance is going to seem more and more like a punt by the federal government during the worst public health crisis that anyone alive can remember.
Ridiculous.
Yeah,
absolutely ridiculous.
I would suggest that the HIV epidemic was a significantly worse public health crisis than COVID-19. But hey, what do I know?
Well,
it's unsustainable.
Did she say lifetime? Maybe she's
that
only
anyone alive can remember. So that's anyone alive.
Yeah, but what is her age?
Does it matter? She says it's anyone. Anyone, Conan.
If she's 20 years old, she does it all.
She said anyone alive.
All right.
That includes the 80-year-olds.
According to a Yahoo News YouGov poll conducted in mid-July, about 60% of fully vaccinated Americans say yes. Hit me with a third shot.
60%?
Yes. So,
bull crap. Bill Maher just came out the other night. He's got both of the shots, and he says no way he's taking a third shot.
Really?
He's one of the 40% who said no. I won't take a third shot.
And I've heard this, and I'm turning it on its head because I believe that these people will collapse.
Mm-hmm.
They will bend the knee to this third shot. But right now, it ain't no 60% saying no, get the third. It's more like 60% saying, I am not going to get the third. I've already followed your rules, been wearing your mask for 15, 16 months. No, brah, it's over.
Well, if you don't get the shot, you don't get to go out to eat. You don't get to go to the theater.
Yeah, I think we're going to see more resistance to the mask mandates. I'm happy to hear that 40% of fully vaccinated Americans said they won't get a third shot. But, my experience with people is, they at least don't want to wear the masks again. And whether or not they actually
they're going to do what they're told.
They're going to do it if they can only go back to normal, which they're being promised once again.
This time, we'll go back to normal.
Yep.
Just obey. One more time.
So this author says 60% of fully vaccinated Americans say, yes, I'll take a third shot. I'm one of them. I will gladly get a third dose if that's what keeps me and the people around me safe from Delta.
Wait, hold on. See, back to that stupid number. They haven't even gotten 60% of the whole population of the U.S. to get fully vaccinated.
I think the U.S. is closer to 70%.
No. It's like 50% one shot. Fully vaccinated, yes, fully vaccinated is only like 50%.
Okay.
So where is she pulling this 60% number?
60% of fully vaccinated Americans.
All right.
It's a poll of the fully vaccinated.
Thank you for clarification. That does make sense. I apologize.
I'm one of them. I will gladly get a third dose if that's what keeps me and the people around me safe from Delta and prevents another variant from developing. God. Even as she talks about how immoral it is for the federal government to even implement boosters, considering the poor Africans have a 2% vaccination rate, she's still going to line up and get the third shot. But in doing so, I know that's one more shot diverted from the roughly 10 billion pledged needed to get 70% of the world vaccinated, the goal the World Health Organization has set to finally say the pandemic is over. So the World Health Organization has set a deadline for the pandemic, when 70% of the world is vaccinated against COVID-19. And as we're learning, that now takes at minimum 3 shots. They will finally say the pandemic is over.
Whatever.
So basically never.
Lady, whoever you are who wrote this article, as long as you continue to think the way that you are and continue to bend your knee to this.
Dude, it gets so
these
much
vaccines,
worse.
These special vaccines for every single variant that comes out will never go away. Ever.
Yep.
Ever.
Wait until you hear this last statement from her. It's a pretty selfish feeling, and given the questions about whether a third shot is even scientifically necessary, I hope I'm not being pushed toward the unethical choice. Even though she admits that there are questions about whether a third shot is even scientifically necessary, and the government that she loves and adores said, hey, yeah, there's no evidence that this is going to help. She's still gladly going to get a third dose. It's all about just how afraid she is.
Yeah, sure.
And doing anything and everything she can to make that fear go away.
The girl who called from California talking about how to deal with her friends, you know, if they, I could tell some people, like James, for example, who called in.
Sure.
There's no way you are ever going to convince him. He is so beyond fixing.
Well, he doesn't even listen.
But this girl, the fact that she even said that, she's like, you know what? Even though there's no science that proves that this works, you know, I'm going to take it anyways. She is halfway there. If you could just get her over the rest of the bridge and convince her to actually look at the data, look at the actual stats, to follow the money, maybe you can convince her to wake up, pull her head out of the sand, because she's halfway there already.
In her own article, she said that the CDC isn't able to prove that a third dose would be any more effective in preventing severe outcomes than the current 2-dose series.
And yet she's still going to take it because
yes, the next to the last paragraph of this article
wants to go back to normal.
I will gladly get a third dose.
That doesn't sound like halfway there to me. That sounds like somebody who's completely bought hook, line, and sinker this whole propaganda.
No, she's a fence sitter. She's in the she doesn't know what
she's doing mental gymnastics so that she can't see the obvious contradictions here.
She's advocating total obedience and a mandatory vaccination,
which is horrible,
from the federal government. She's just saying, gosh, I sure do feel bad about those Africans. Yeah, but that's all this is.
The people I'm saying that you're never going to reach are the ones who believe that this booster will work.
Well,
they believe that the other two worked. No, she doesn't. She just said she doesn't believe it. She doesn't believe it.
She does. She says, I'm one of them. I will gladly get a third dose if that's what keeps me and the people around me safe from Delta and prevents another variant from developing.
Meanwhile, the sentence right before that, she says there's no proof.
Yes, but it doesn't matter.
It's about belief.
She believes.
She doesn't believe in this. She believes in her government. She believes in the
whatever
CDC.
It is. It's a faith-based thing. This is a religious belief system.
These people need Jesus.
It doesn't matter.
You've lost Jesus. You've moved. You've switched. You've transferred it over for Fauci, Lord and Savior, or High Priest Fauci.
It's the same thing as talking to a dyed-in-the-wool Christian. You can point out all the contradictions in the Bible that you want to. You're not going to convert them away from it for the most part. And this woman is the same thing. You can point out all of the contradictions. Look, the vaccines aren't working. Well, it's okay. I'll get another one, and maybe it'll work harder. You know, they just.
Well, you could put people who vote in that category.
Sure,
vote harder. You didn't get the guy you wanted. You get him next time, maybe.
But we do know what she believes in regard to the vaccines and COVID-19 because she tells us. She tells us that a third dose, she believes it is what will keep her and the people around her safe from Delta, and that it will prevent another variant from developing.
And if someone in so-called authority tells her that she's going to need a 4th dose and a 5th dose and a 6th dose in order to keep people safe, she will roll up her sleeve and she'll blog about it.
And she will gladly, she'll feel bad about it.
And she'll change
those poor Africans.
And she'll change her Facebook picture to her getting her shot.
Yeah.
You damn virtue signaler.
Man, I hate that so much.
Ugh.
And I hate the ones that say, I have a healthy distrust of authority and I'm vaccinated. Those exist now.
What?
You haven't seen them?
No.
Oh, they're horrible. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. U.S. President Joe Biden says he still plans to withdraw troops from Afghanistan by the August 31st deadline, even though thousands of people are still trying to leave the country. The president's comments came after a meeting with other G7 leaders where they agreed to engage with the Taliban. FSN's Nick Harper reports from Washington.
President Biden said the mission was on track. Evacuations have increased, with more than 70,000 people flown out of Kabul in the last 10 days. But he said a growing threat of a possible terrorist attack by the ISIS affiliate in Afghanistan, ISIS-K, made a swift withdrawal the safest option.
The sooner we can finish, the better. Every day we're on the ground is another day we know that ISIS-K is seeking to target the airport and attack both U.S. and allied forces and innocent civilians.
However, the president has also requested the Pentagon draw up contingency plans should Biden determine that troops need to stay longer or if the Taliban hinders the airport evacuations.
The popular home-sharing platform Airbnb has pledged to provide free housing for 20,000 Afghan refugees. CEO Brian Chesky says the program will begin immediately. FSN's Silicon Valley correspondent Rachel Silverman has this report from San Francisco.
Calling the displacement and resettlement of Afghan refugees one of the biggest humanitarian crises of our time, the Airbnb CEO says the company feels a responsibility to step up. The refugees will be housed in properties listed on Airbnb's platform. CEO Brian Chesky did not specify exactly how much the company plans to spend on the commitment or how long the refugees will be housed for. Nearly 60,000 people have been evacuated in recent days, and thousands are still trying to escape.
Charlie Watts, the drummer with the Rolling Stones, has died at the age of 80. His publicist said he passed away peacefully in a London hospital surrounded by his family. Earlier this month, he announced ill health would prevent him from touring with the Stones later this year. Tributes to Watts have been pouring in from around the globe, including this from Paul McCartney.
So sad to hear about Charlie Watts, the Stones drummer. Lots of love to his family, his wife and kids and his extended family, and condolences to the Stones. This will be a huge blow to them because Charlie was a rock and a fantastic drummer. steady as a rock. Anyway, so love you, Charlie. I always loved you. Beautiful man, and great condolences and sympathies to his family.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, an eyewitness account from Poland's border with Belarus, scene of reportedly forced migrations of Belarusians into European Union territory. The authorities in Warsaw say they're going to build a security fence along the border now and double the number of troops posted there after the EU accused Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko of deliberately trying to flood Poland and other EU member states with refugees. Brussels believes it's a retaliation for European sanctions imposed on Belarus following President Lukashenko's crackdown there. Claudia Ciobanu is a Polish journalist just back to Warsaw from the border.
We were simply walking in one of the villages nearby the border, and we heard on the Belarusian side a truck driving in. And minutes later, we did see migrants emerging on the Polish side. The villagers in the houses nearby the border, they said, here it is. It's the time of day when they are bringing in migrants. And there's more and more testimonies to this extent. It does seem to be the case that the Belarusian authorities are indeed driving migrants to the border.
The Polish government says the bewildered arrivals are not refugees, but economic migrants forced to make the journey by the government in Minsk. Some human rights groups are urging the Polish government to be more humane in its approach to the situation. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. U.S. President Joe Biden says he still plans to withdraw troops from Afghanistan by the end of the month, even though thousands of people are still trying to leave the country. Airbnb pledges to provide free housing for 20,000 Afghan refugees. And Charlie Watts, the drummer with the Rolling Stones, has died at the age of 80. That is the latest feature story news. Ira Spitzer reporting.
It's The Onion Radio News. General Motors reports record sales of its new disposable car. This is Doyle Redland reporting. General Motors has announced a 56% increase in earnings this year, attributing much of it to February's wildly successful launch of the GMC Whim, the first ever non-refillable disposable automobile. Debuting at a cost of $1,100 each, the vehicles are flying out of showrooms as quickly as dealers can stock them. Whim enthusiast Glenn Shriver.
I recently consumed 4 vehicles driving from my home to Daytona Beach for the first annual Whim Owners Convention. I've already collected all 8 colors.
Rival automakers are preparing to counter with their own lines of disposable cars, including the Ford Temporare and the Chrysler Dumper. The 2002 Mitsubishi Ditch will be unveiled later this year with a projected sticker price of $799. Doyle Redland for The Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, and you're welcome to join us. 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Now, I'm on the platform Gab. Have been for several years. I mean, I don't actively use it these days, obviously, because out of all of the social media platforms that I was interested in, Gab did not even make the cut. I think I've made 2 total posts to Gab, but because I have an account there, I receive somewhat regular emails from the owner, as does everyone on the platform. It's not like he's emailing me. He's sending out mass newsletters, and I usually just ignore them because I don't care, but by chance, I accidentally clicked this one when I was out smoking, and it's got something in here that I want to actually talk about.
What is Gab for listeners that...
Gab is a social media platform very similar to Twitter that is less heavy-handed with its censorship. It allows the people on the right to speak freely, including Nazis. They did ban Christopher Cantwell, I believe.
They did, yeah.
But they still have plenty of Nazis and alt-right people and right-wing conservatives on there. But that wasn't their goal when they created Gab. The dude's a super hardcore Christian, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, he mentions Jesus repeatedly throughout this email. But I want to talk about it because it's related to something we discussed last night about the FDA, and he's got specific cited examples here of why FDA approval, quote,
all the mistakes they've made over the years, why you should never trust these people.
Yes. He says, FDA approval means nothing to me. I don't look to our failing secular and wicked institutions for validation. I have God for that. Well, I have reason for that rather than God, and God isn't the one who tells me that your list here isn't good. Remember when the FDA approved Quaaludes, which are now considered a Schedule I drug like heroin?
Bill Cosby remembers.
His victims don't.
Oh.
The FDA also approved I'm going to hell for that one. The FDA also approved DES, a synthetic form of estrogen, and it was marketed to the expecting mother who preferred to have a healthy baby. It claimed to prevent spontaneous abortion, miscarriage, and premature labor. Studies soon showed that mothers who took DES during the first 5 months of pregnancy were more likely to suffer from complications with their reproductive systems. The FDA finally banned it in 1971. The FDA also approved Vioxx, an anti-inflammatory medication intended to treat arthritis. It was the subject of one of the largest medical recalls in history. After it was approved in 1999, it was prescribed to over 20 million people and one of the most widely prescribed drugs of 2003. The following year, it was recalled. One of the FDA's own scientists, Dr. David Graham, estimated that Vioxx had been associated with more than 27,000 heart attacks or deaths linked to cardiac problems. There are more examples that you can research yourself. The bottom line is that this is predictably being used as an excuse for the government and employers to force experimental vaccinations on people. Meanwhile, Israel, one of the most fully vaccinated countries in the world, is struggling with a surge of the Delta variant of COVID. The best part of all of these attacks is that Gab is so big now that this email you are reading will get more viewed than all of these hit pieces combined, because that's the real subject of this email. Is some news media wrote an article about Gab and they tried to slam him or something. I'm getting, where's the part about government overreach? I already lost it because he railed about government overreach.
And he just listed drugs that the FDA has approved. What about all the foods that are you look at the back of your cookies or whatever that you just pulled off the shelf at the grocery store and look at some of the nonsense that are, especially some of these man-made sweeteners. And the FDA is all on board.
Well, aspartame was a poison it was considered a poison by the FDA for a very, very long time until the new head of the FDA, I think back in the 80s, who was previously the CEO of the company that owned the patent to aspartame, decided that it was no longer a poison.
That's how this works, people. That's why I'm always saying follow the money. Look at these CEOs and look at these heads of these departments. They're always swip-swapping. Yeah. They're always changing seats because they're all in bed together. They're the same people.
So he's talking about hit pieces, and he's going to continue sharing them, and he encourages you to do so as well, especially now that employers seem likely to force vaccine mandates after the rushed FDA, quote, approval. Note that 100 million people who are already skeptical of every branch of government aren't likely to be compelled by the approval of another three-letter government agency which has so often in the past approved dangerous drugs that were later recalled. So, compelling piece from him, and I may actually pay attention to the emails they send going forward. But we talked about Israel repeatedly tonight because they are one of the most vaccinated countries in the world, as well as Iceland. And they're still struggling.
They are actually like the test site, the lab rats that if you really want to see how this is going to work long term and how it's going to affect an entire community, an entire population, Israel is really the place to look, and Iceland, because they've had so many of their population that have gone through with this. So what are the results? We have these lab rats who are all concentrated. They're all on board. Most of the population is vaccinated. Tell me, it's worked, right?
I was going to point out that you just called the Jews in Israel lab rats, and then you also called them concentrated.
Did I now?
You did. The massive surge of COVID-19 infections in Israel, one of the most vaccinated countries on earth, is pointing to a complicated path ahead for America. In June, there were several days with 0 new COVID infections in Israel. The country, that's also true of Sweden, I think, isn't it? Sweden.
You mean the guys who didn't lock down, who were lambasted at first? Everyone was saying that these don't do what this. I think it was pretty sure it was Sweden.
Yeah,
don't do what they've done. They've had all these deaths, and then now
In July, they had like zero
Nothing.
new cases for several days or weeks in a row. I don't remember the details.
Probably because they all reached herd immunity.
Yep. The country launched its national vaccination campaign in December last year and has one of the highest vaccination rates in the world, with 80% of citizens above the age of 12 fully inoculated. COVID, most Israelis thought.
Well, may I interrupt you here? Because on the Google vaccination data that they have here, Israel shows up as 60.2% fully vaccinated, but it doesn't specify the age range. So I don't know if
I would imagine that includes children under 12 as well then.
Maybe.
So COVID, they thought, had been defeated. All restrictions were lifted, and Israelis went back to crowded partying and praying in mask-free venues. Fast forward 2 months later. Israel reported 9,831 new diagnosed cases on Tuesday, a hair's breadth away from the worst daily figure ever recorded in the country, 10,000, which was at the peak of the third wave. So this is the fourth wave? Is that why they're calling it the Delta variant? Who knows?
Doomsday.
I'm waiting, man.
It's coming.
More than 350 people have died of the disease in the first 3 weeks of August.
Oh, speaking of, by the way, they're talking about the one that, here's the meme I saw last week, a couple days ago, the Omega variant.
Ooh.
That's the one that's going to kill us all.
Well, no, that's the Doomsday variant that will kill us all.
Well,
the Omega variant will turn us into zombies.
Even though I said last week that they should go with the Doomsday because it sounds cool, they never will because it's too scary. But Omega is cool because you got like the Omega Man, and that's the end. It's all over after the Omega. It's done. It'll work. But no, that's the one who Fauci's boss was talking about, the Omega variant.
Really?
He's all on board. He knows what's going on.
In a Sunday press conference, the directors of 7 public hospitals announced that they could no longer admit any coronavirus patients. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. With 670 COVID-19 patients requiring critical care, their wards are overflowing and staff are at a breaking point. I don't want to frighten you, coronavirus czar Dr. Salman Zarqa told the Israeli parliament this week, but this is the data. Unfortunately, the numbers don't lie.
I wonder if they're also having a staffing shortage at their hospitals, kind of like we are here in the States.
Well, if they would stop firing healthcare workers for not being vaccinated, they might not have that shortage.
That's where I was going with that. Are they having the same problem? Because obviously, either whether it's 60% or whether it's 80%, there's still a portion of the population who decided not to get this thing.
Yep.
And are any of them teachers and or doctors and nurses? And are they having staff shortages? And by the way, James, if you're still listening, your lady who was crying about having to deal with this, was she really crying because she had to come in 7 days a week because the nurses won't come in anymore?
Well, that will send you to a breaking point for sure.
It will.
So the complex and sobering truth about what happened is that no single policy or event brought Israel to this crisis. But what did? We're going to get into that and more here on Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. If you want to join us, that's 603-283-6160. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us, 603-283-6160 is the number for that. That's 603-283-6160. And we're discussing Israel and what happened. And I hope you love disappointing answers, because the answer given by Haggai Levine, a Hebrew University of Jerusalem professor of epidemiology, said, "We are still in the midst of a pandemic, and there is no silver bullet. All the vectors have influenced the rise in morbidity." So basically, we don't know. It's a virus and it's a pandemic, so this is happening.
Be afraid.
Which is not a very satisfying answer. But of course, they don't have satisfying answers because they don't really know what's going on. I mean, I love pointing to the CDC's website on mass guidance. It's about just how confused they are and how they don't have any answers or solutions at this point.
Yeah, if you're determined to find the answer to all this from Fauci and or any other agency who makes money off of this pandemic,
yeah,
you're never gonna have an answer. The only way out of this is to start thinking for yourself.
Yep, absolutely. But
the only way out of this is not to just start thinking for yourself, but you have to act. You have to refuse.
The first thing you do, though, think for yourself and come to the right conclusions, and then act and get that boot off of your neck, because that's what it is.
Make a stand. If they're telling you that they're going to fire you unless you do this or that, just tell them, okay, do what you got to do.
Yep.
And then see what they do.
Yeah, because at least 40% of us already right now today aren't going to get this vaccine. So
presumably,
employers out there.
They keep saying that there were people who were waiting on full FDA approval, but I can't imagine there were very many of those.
I'm not buying it.
No, I don't think
employers out there, are you ready to lose 40% of your workforce?
Dude,
Because
they're already really low.
They
on their
can't
workforce.
handle that, man. That's what we were talking about the other night. Is like they want to tell you have to get the vaccine or they're going to fire you. Tell them, okay, fire me. Let's see you run this place with one fewer employee than what you have right now, because these places are already running skeleton staffs.
So you have the power, believe it or not. You don't have to live in fear like this every single day of your lives when you know something's wrong with this.
But we're also assuming that the unvaccinated are out in the workforce and aren't, sitting at home collecting the massive unemployment checks and not having to pay rent and all of that nonsense.
That's a possibility.
But let's go to the phones. We have Joey calling from Michigan. Joey, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey guys, how's it going? I just wanted to say that I listen to you guys at least 3-4 times a week when I can, and you guys inspire the heck out of me with the fact that you guys stand up for what you believe in. I have a lot of anxiety and depression in my life, and to see other people that stand up and don't back down when they take phone calls from somebody such as James or whoever. That means a lot to me, and it inspires me, and I just wanted to thank you guys, and that's all I got for now. So you guys have a great evening.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Cool, you as well, Joey. It's always good to hear positive stuff from people. So back to Israel then, because the principal causes of Israel's current predicament are the dominance of the extremely infectious Delta variant, which was carried into the country by Israelis returning from foreign vacations during the weeks in which Israel dropped all restrictive measures. They found a way to blame immigration and the dropping of restrictive measures.
Yeah, they should have just stayed on total lockdown all the time.
And not allowed anyone back into the country.
Because look at how Australia is doing. Total lockdown and, they still have cases.
Yes, along with the worrisome decrease in vaccine efficacy after about 6 months. It's appalling to me that they found a way they have no data, no links here to back up these claims that the current predicament is being caused by Israelis returning from vacations during the weeks in which Israel dropped its restrictive measures. They have no evidence for that. They're just making the claim and planting that seed in people's heads that, we need to stay locked down we don't need to allow people into the country.
They need a scapegoat to prove that the people did not go through all of that a whole year and all the jabs for nothing. They have to find someone to blame this on, and this is the perfect way through it. Of course, if they're all vaccinated, why did anyone get sick?
Israel vaccinated its population almost exclusively with the Pfizer vaccine, which received full FDA approval on Monday and remains the gold standard for the prevention of severe illness due to the coronavirus.
By the way, they're going to call
my immune system is a better standard to use.
You know what they're going to call the new Pfizer shot?
I knew it because I read it yesterday, but I don't remember what it was called.
It's a combination of COVID-19 and community immunity and mRNA. So it's Comirnaty.
Are you serious?
Yeah. You know what's even crazier?
It sounds like a heavily accented Southern person saying community.
It's going to be a lot of people.
They got to get this out of our community.
Exactly. For the first couple of weeks, there's going to be a lot of talking heads are going to have a hard time actually saying it. I can see so many slip-ups.
What is? How would you use that exactly? Like, what are the? In what? Use that in a sentence.
Did you get your community shot?
They're actually going to say that on the news? Really?
They're going to have to. Hey, but here...
I got to tell you, man, I feel like we're about 3 months away from finding out that Comernity is the name of an ancient Roman demon
I
or
looked,
something.
I tried to find it, and it's not there. But here's the kicker. What's Moderna going to call theirs if they get FDA approval?
Oh, man.
Spike Vax.
What?
Spike Vax.
What?
Yeah, they don't have good marketing teams because they don't need good marketing teams. They have the U.S. government backing them.
Yeah, people are the U.S. government's going to buy your stupid ass vaccine, whatever it's called.
So wait, Comernity is how they're going to market this thing. This is going to be the official name.
That's his name.
This is what, like, if you go to the wherever the hell you get these things. So I want the Comernity vax. That's what it's called.
Oh
my God!
As of today, or maybe yesterday even. They were thinking about this, their sales team, but like Arya says, it doesn't really matter. It's not you're not going to have options on the shelf, and you're shopping for this at the CVS, and it's like I think I want the Spike Vax. It sounds a little more sci-fi, it's a little more
hardcore, got
cyberpunk,
a rock element to it. Yeah.
Versus Comernity, sounds like it's from the South.
Wow, even CNN is calling it silly.
Yeah,
the name.
Well,
good call then on their part.
That's a surprisingly good call on their part. In early July, with citizens over the age of 60 almost completely vaccinated, Israeli scientists began observing a worrisome rise in infections, if not in severe illness and death, among the doubly vaccinated. Fully vaccinated people with weakened immune systems appeared particularly vulnerable to the aggressive Delta variant. Let's repeat that. Basically, the same freaking people who are vulnerable to COVID-19 are still vulnerable to COVID-19,
and I would argue,
despite being vaccinated.
Being who I am, being the conspiracy guy here, I would say that their immune systems have been brought down even lower than what they were a year ago, and so they're more
because they've been indoors a bunch or whatever. Right?
Well, not just that, but the way that the mRNA works is actually weakening your immune system, and so I think that they're even more vulnerable than they would have been a year ago if they had not taken this thing at all.
I'm really tired of seeing people posting online, I got the shot and then I have COVID and I didn't have to be hospitalized, so I'm so grateful for the vaccine. But they have absolutely no reason to believe that they would have been hospitalized by it in the first place.
Or have you seen this one? I got the shot and then I got really sick, but then my doctor says, that's how you know it's working. I kid you not. You know it's working if you get super, super sick after the jab.
From what I've seen, people who get the jab are significantly sicker than I was when I actually had COVID-19. Jeez. More coming up about Israel, 603-283-6160. You can join us. It's Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Karl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. U.S. President Joe Biden says he still plans to withdraw troops from Afghanistan by the August 31st deadline, even though thousands of people are still trying to leave the country. The president's comments came after a meeting with other G7 leaders where they agreed to engage with the Taliban. FSN's Nick Harper reports from Washington.
President Biden said the mission was on track. Evacuations have increased, with more than 70,000 people flown out of Kabul in the last 10 days. But he said a growing threat of a possible terrorist attack by the ISIS affiliate in Afghanistan, ISIS-K, made a swift withdrawal the safest option.
The sooner we can finish, the better. Every day we're on the ground is another day we know that ISIS-K is seeking to target the airport and attack both U.S. and allied forces and innocent civilians.
However, the president has also requested the Pentagon draw up contingency plans should Biden determine that troops need to stay longer or if the Taliban hinders the airport evacuations.
The popular home-sharing platform Airbnb has pledged to provide free housing for 20,000 Afghan refugees. CEO Brian Chesky says the program will begin immediately. FSN's Silicon Valley correspondent Rachel Silverman has this report from San Francisco.
Calling the displacement and resettlement of Afghan refugees one of the biggest humanitarian crises of our time, the Airbnb CEO says the company feels a responsibility to step up. The refugees will be housed in properties listed on Airbnb's platform. CEO Brian Chesky did not specify exactly how much the company plans to spend on the commitment or how long the refugees will be housed for. Nearly 60,000 people have been evacuated in recent days, and thousands are still trying to escape.
Charlie Watts, the drummer with the Rolling Stones, has died at the age of 80. His publicist said he passed away peacefully in a London hospital surrounded by his family. Earlier this month, he announced ill health would prevent him from touring with the Stones later this year. Tributes to Watts have been pouring in from around the globe, including this from Paul McCartney.
So sad to hear about Charlie Watts, the Stones drummer. Lots of love to his family, his wife and kids and his extended family, and condolences to the Stones. This will be a huge blow to them because Charlie was a rock and a fantastic drummer, steady as a rock. Anyway, so love you, Charlie. I always loved you, beautiful man, and great condolences and sympathies to his family.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. You can join us, 603-283-6160. That's the call-in line for you to do that. That's 603-283-6160. And we've been laughing at Pfizer and the silly name they've chosen for their vaccine. It's Comirnaty, which just feels clunky to say, but it's not as bad as some of the... Do you still have the alternatives pulled up, or did you close out of that?
I can pull it back up. Just give me a moment.
Because some of the alternatives are even worse. There was something...
Covuity, Arnax Covey, Covimirna, and with a K, by the way, Covimirna, and RN extract.
See, I kind of like RN extract. If they had to pick, if these
of those choices, I agree with you. That's the best.
Yeah.
And the reason these are so strange and they're not really coming off the tongue so well is because they are insistent on including mRNA in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Which by the way, Moderna, it's the same. It's mRNA with just an O and a D in there.
It isn't.
So
I never noticed that.
This is new technology that they really want to capitalize. They're pushing it so hard because they can make vaccine. If this works, which I have a problem with, and I don't think that it will, they can make vaccines for everything. They can make vaccines for nicotine addiction or alcohol addiction. They could just do whatever. They could reshape the human body to react otherwise, which is getting really scary. You know how I feel about synthetic anything.
Sure.
If it's not man-made, if you can't make it out in the woods, I don't want any part of it. I mean, this is some Frankenstein stuff that we're getting into, where you're changing the body. This is some. I mean, I had some problems with updating, grafting new technologies onto my body and whatnot. The singularity and whatnot. This is something completely different, where you're actually manipulating the cells in your body to behave differently, and you don't know how it's going to affect you for the rest of your life and or your protege. Who knows how this is, or even if you could even have kids after this, or the spike proteins are going to attack every fetus that comes into your body.
It's certainly a lot of questions, but we have Justin waiting on the lines. Justin, you're on Free Talk Live. Are you with us, Justin?
Hello.
Seems not.
Who was the one who dropped off earlier tonight? Was that?
That was CW. He actually sent a message on D-Live saying that he had to drop off. So.
Gotcha.
So anyway, back to Israel. By mid-July, Sheba Hospital professor Galia Rahav began to experiment with booster shots for oncology patients, transplant patients, and the hospital's own staff. A group of 70 elderly... Now, this is just a doctor running experiments on her patients. And no one's saying, hey... That's probably unethical.
But they are. If you are administering ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine to your patients, you better believe they're going to come after you. You might even get fired. You definitely going to get.
On the subject of ivermectin, I used to do a show with Tom Gray that was called Call to Freedom. And Tom, if you don't stop spewing nonsense, I'm going to come down to Tennessee and I'm going to have to smack you.
How's this?
What the hell happened?
He just routinely is railing against the anti-mask people and the anti-vax people and all that on social media. He's fully bought into the government narrative, and he just keeps referring to ivermectin as a horse dewormer.
It is.
But it does have it is approved by the FDA that he so loves and cherishes as being a human drug for other things, as being antiviral, if I recall correctly.
It's a dewormer, for one.
It is a horse dewormer, yes, but it is also a human medication for something completely different.
Yep.
So stop that narrative. It is a horse dewormer, yes, but doctors prescribe that to human beings. So
that's not uncommon, where people are researching one thing and then they find out that the thing they were, creating actually has all these other effects.
That's how
uses.
Viagra was discovered. It was supposed to be for blood pressure medication. And let's see, Benadryl, another one, was supposed to be for allergies, but it knocks people out. Okay, well, let's throw it in Tylenol and call it Tylenol PM. So this doctor is experimenting on her patients or his patients and doesn't seem to have any ethical issue with that. A group of 70 elderly vaccinated...
As long as they've consented, fine.
Sure, I guess that's true. A group of 70 elderly vaccinated Israelis with transplanted kidneys were the first to receive a third dose. The success of the trials in boosting immunity at about the 6-month mark contributed to the CDC's decision announced last week to begin offering booster shots to Americans in September.
But it doesn't boost immunity.
No, and we talked about that in the last hour.
It's just a religious belief.
They believe that it does, but the CDC themselves has no data showing that it helps. And they were just saying 2 weeks ago that there's no data to suggest that a booster shot will help. Yet they're doing it anyway because it is just a religious belief. They just believe in the state narrative. In order to keep severe illness and the number of COVID deaths down and avoiding a fourth national lockdown, Israel has embarked on an aggressive effort to provide all adults with boosters in a matter of weeks. As of this week, all Israelis over 30 will be eligible to receive booster shots. By the end of the month, they are expected to be universally available to anyone over the age of 12 who received their second shot 5 months or more ago. Israel will then reconfigure its green passports, granting them only to the triple vaccinated.
Green passport. How do you like that? I told you this is gonna work into some kind of climate change reaction as well. Carbon tax credits, and how much carbon have you used this year?
Sure.
And it's gonna be linked to your bank account. So it's gonna be, so if you have any issues where you didn't take your garbage out to the recycle bin the correct way, they're gonna deduct points and it's gonna go right out of your bank.
So the world we're looking at now, at minimum, is every 6 months you're going to need to get a new COVID-19 booster shot.
If you want to keep doing things, you want to go to the restaurant, you want to go out to the new concert or whatever, then if you want
to have a job. In a lot of instances,
what they want.
Well, they can't afford to fire people, man.
They
think they can.
The government can. The military is already coming out. You know how Biden feels about all this. He wants all federal employees to get it.
Yeah, now the military is being required to get it. It'll be interesting to see how much military is left after this. In anticipation of this change, the number of unvaccinated Israelis getting their first shots has tripled since the beginning of August. So even if you get your full 2 shots now in Israel, you won't be considered fully vaccinated until 6 months have passed and you've gotten your 3rd shot and now a 4th shot.
How the hell
required.
are you ever going to catch up?
I don't think they can. That's exactly it. They're never going to be considered fully vaccinated.
Oh my God.
Because they have to wait 6 months to get the 3rd shot, and by then there will be, if you don't think there's going to be a 4th shot 6 months from now, then I don't know how you managed to sit through 2.5 hours of libertarian talk. The World Health Organization has asked wealthy countries to halt all 3rd vaccines for a period of 2 months, hoping that a moratorium will allow poorer countries where few citizens have received even a 1st inoculation to catch up.
Like Africa, dun dun dun. What is it, 2%?
Yes.
Yeah, Afghanistan's got 0.6% fully vaccinated at this point.
Big Pharma, those guys don't want your nonsense. They don't want your poison.
Interested.
They're not interested.
And you know what?
They don't trust you, and they're right not to trust you.
And they're walking down the street, no masks on. All good.
Living free. They might have some other issues going on, but they ain't worried about this.
The United States rejected the call, and Israel has ignored it. Asked what has brought Israel to peak transmission, even as the country has already provided 3rd doses of vaccines to 1.5 million citizens. So let's reflect on that. Israel is back at peak transmission, even as it has already given 3rd doses to 1.5 million people. Rahab, who has become one of the best-known faces of Israel's public health messaging, sighed and said, "I think we're dealing with a very nasty virus. This is the main problem, and we're learning it the hard way.
Dose up and dose harder."
It is a combination of waning immunity so that inoculated people get reinfected, and at the same time, the very transmissible Delta variant. But it is not an Israeli problem. It's everywhere. Her conclusions should give pause to American authorities who face school reopenings at best, as at best only 50% of eligible adults have been fully vaccinated, unlike New Zealand, which aims for zero community transmission of the coronavirus and imposes lockdown when even a single positive case is identified. Yep. Israeli authorities have opted for a model they are calling, quote, living with corona. Because it's not going away. And I hope people are starting to realize that.
And neither is the tyranny.
Absolutely
not. So you stand up.
603-283-6160.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live with Arya, Ian, and Conan tonight. And it's nice to hear a public health official saying something that doesn't sound contradictory of the thing they said 6 seconds ago. Such as Zarka here, who is the coronavirus czar in Israel, who said to a local radio station, "We've achieved a plan that is not hermetic. Clearly, there will be cases of illness at schools, but shutting oneself up at home and closing the school system isn't exactly the solution." He has asked the government to impose stricter limitations on the size of cultural and sports events until the incidence of coronavirus infections declines. Each country has to assess its own epidemiology, Levine said, its culture, its public health, the public's confidence in its health authorities. Referring to New Zealand, he added that, quote, "We can all learn from other countries, but you can't copy and paste other countries' methods." Now, New Zealand is absolutely insane.
Bonkers insane.
But, dude, Australia themselves are just as bad these days. They went under a 23-hour lockdown in New South Wales yesterday, actually.
New Zealand has extended their lockdown update earlier today.
Not surprised to hear that. They're going to continue extending them.
Now, I was thinking about this the other day because someone, I can't remember where, was commenting, because I was talking about Crocodile Dundee. You know,
right.
Paul Hogan, where are you at? And of course, it makes perfect sense. He doesn't live in Australia anymore. He's in San Francisco or somewhere, or L.A.
Well, I wouldn't go to Australia. From what I've heard of the Australian government, I would never want to go to Australia.
But I mean, I was always of the opinion that was the type of people Australians are. They are. This is, that's not a knife. There's a knife right here. And crocodile.
Well, I'm sure they are in parts of Australia.
Who was the crocodile whisperer? Steve Irwin. He's same thing. Rough and tough out there, getting dirty, getting dirt under his nails, and playing around with things that can bite his head off.
Interesting. This is probably why many people in Asian countries think of Americans as all cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
The same sort of stereotype.
Because of why? Because of
John Wayne.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. But the Australians are right there, and if they're beat like this,
yeah. But the only Australian you know anything about is Crocodile Dundee and Steve Irwin. So you go, that must be what all Australians are.
No. And that's where I was going with this. Thanks to the comments. What about Mad Max?
What about it?
Dude, he wasn't taking flack from anybody. He's out there.
These are just movies.
Yeah,
Mad
but
Max
this
is fiction, right?
Was
he even Australian?
Last time I checked, art imitates life imitates art. I mean, it's all connected.
I don't know, Conan. I mean, these are just entertaining movies.
Okay, but what was the whole? All right, so just a movie.
Steve Irwin, however, I'll give you, was a real person.
There's plenty of American heroes in movies, and the country's full of pussies.
Let's stick with Mad Max. What was the whole premise? You had like one dude who just wanted to be left alone, and he was just fighting the tyrannical, crazy.
Yeah, people think that Mad Max represents what anarchy will ultimately be, and I'm like, no, that is the ultimate argument for anarchy. Those violent gangs, those criminal warlords, those are just states.
Exactly. This is what people who don't understand true anarchy think that it will evolve into. Mad Max type situation. And so if that is the mentality of the people living over there in that country who would make a movie like that, maybe that's why they're in the boat that they're in right now.
I'm sure Mad Max was made in California, not Australia.
No, it was Australia.
It may have been filmed in Australia.
Yeah, all Australian actors.
Yeah.
I can't remember who directed the silly thing. But no, maybe that's in their subconscious. It's in the back of their mind. Is that if we don't lock down, if we don't, if we don't kick tyranny in the butt, which by the way, they're just handing it right over to some tyrannical figures. But if we don't kick this in the butt, someone with a mohawk's going to come riding in on a motorcycle and throw a Molotov through our building.
Conan, just because somebody made a badass, action movie in the 1970s or whenever the hell it was that Mad Max came out in Australia doesn't mean anything about the Australian people. And even though they were at one time a prison colony, so they probably were some badass dudes that were sent down there, some bad guys,
some bad actors,
that were sent down there to start Australia as part of a prison colony. Things have come a long way in a bad way as far as since then. Generations have happened.
Hey, all I'm trying to do is figure out why these badasses have
They're
gotten.
not.
Think about it.
No. When I grew up,
I have an
they were.
explanation, Conan. They sent the badass criminals to Australia, and what did they do? They formed one of the most badass tyrannical governments in the world.
Took over.
And they also gave up their guns not too long ago.
And they totally kowtowed the people. You know, they turned them into obedient serfs, just like the Americans did. Americans used to be revolutionary. They used to be all about freedom and, you know, individual liberty. And look at people now. It's pathetic.
It truly is.
But the last week has shown a signal. Oh, I skipped a part. Israel was forced to make quick decisions. And in a time of great uncertainty, Levine was among the public health officials who expressed doubts about the wisdom of untested moves toward nationwide booster vaccination. But he said that the latest statistics showing that only 0.2 of the first 1.1 million recipients of the third jab were infected with coronavirus. So only 200,000 people who received the third jab got infected with coronavirus which means 9 million people didn't. They really could have found an easier way to convey those numbers. The last week has shown a significant reduction in morbidity among triple vaccinated Israelis over the age of 70, the first group to receive the booster.
See, it's working.
Well,
so they said a million so far have gotten the third shot?
1.1 million, yes.
Out of how big of a population? It's not that big.
I have no idea. The article doesn't say. But I mean, it also stands to reason that, you know, if this thing is as infectious as people say, then the ones who were going to die from it probably caught it sooner and probably already died from it. And the ones who are healthier and less likely to die from it are probably just now catching it or showing symptoms of it because they're healthier. Like
8.8 million. So you said
that's their total population?
Yeah. It's not a big country.
Well, 1.1 million people have gotten the third jab in Israel. So, for whatever that's worth. Like the other experts, Rahav supports schools reopening, but noted that thanks to upcoming Jewish holidays, which will close schools in about 80% of the country, Israel will once again be uniquely positioned to serve as a huge laboratory.
Yep. That's exactly what I said. They're the lab rats.
It's scary. They don't seem to mind, though. They seem to be well aware of it.
It goes right back to the Australian thing. You know, you have a certain people, believe it or not, people that, you know, if you live in isolated type areas.
If you have never been to Australia and you don't know anything about the rest of the world or anything outside of your bubble, you may be under the conclusion that Crocodile Dundee is what every Australian is like. Yes.
But I also had Steve Irwin.
You did. That's true.
Just recently, and he was badass.
He was.
And it looks like his kid's going to be a badass too. Wait for that to happen.
But, you know, I dread to think of the rest of the world watching Tiger King and thinking that Americans are like Joe Exotic. Right?
Yeah, but not a badass.
Your average American cannot wrestle an alligator, and neither can the average Australian.
But the average American has a lot more in common with Joe Exotic than the average Australian has in common with Crocodile Dundee.
Wait. Say that again. You're saying that we have you have more in common with Joe Exotic.
The average American has more in common with Joe Exotic.
I don't know about that. He's a character, and I don't think there's a whole lot of characters out there. I'm not impressed. I don't go to the store. I don't just meet someone that was like, hey, you know what, dude? I'm impressed. In fact, I very rarely meet people I'm impressed with.
I don't think I would have been impressed if I had met Joe Exotic. I don't think impressed would have been how I left that particular interaction.
I've never seen it, but there's a headline here out of Australia about a new app that they've come out with, a smartphone app that will use facial recognition and geolocation to help the government gang monitor people during home quarantine. It's called Home Quarantine SA, as in South Australia, as part of a trial that will assist the government in monitoring compliance with the state's mandatory isolation requirements. The app will allow trial participants to confirm their location with regular check-ins through a live face check-in feature that uses facial recognition and location verification. They'll be
See, that's so much worse than what I thought initially. I was just going to say, okay, so leave your phone at home when you go out.
No, you'll be required to take it with you, and you'll be sent random location checks, which you'll be required to respond to within a 15-minute time frame to prove you're at the registered quarantine address by showing your face alongside the geolocation data. So that's the latest development in technology to help keep you safe.
Good God.
That's horrifying.
And by the way, I've always been in the
Speaking
opinion
of test grounds,
that we're definitely going more towards a Brave New World outcome, because, pain hurts and people aren't going to want to deviate that. They're going to want to go for the pill. They're going to want to go for the savior and the feel-good savior. But Australia, you look like you're going 1984. That's crazy right
it's
there.
1985 there by now.
That's some Big Brother crap going on right there.
it is. Stand up, resist, don't obey. Peaceful resistance, non-cooperation. That's the only way out of this mess, is to just stop complying.
And move to New Hampshire if you care about freedom.
Absolutely. Back tomorrow, it's Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative.